And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bash us, him.
Attention to roll call.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. 8:05 live Eastern Time. Monday morning. We got a good episode coming up for you. So, big news at City Hall in New York City. Mayor Eric Adams bows out of the race. I got to be honest, I'm surprised. Sleepy Joe, good morning to you. Sleepy Joe says the new Norwegian rat's luck has finally run out. That's what I was saying to myself. Norwegian rats can survive anything. And I compared Eric Adams to a Norwegian rat. And I knew he wasn't going to win. Well, I thought he'd have a chance. But I'm shocked he stepped out. Throughout all controversies, indictments, appearance of impropriety, scandal after scandal, and he survived. And now to step down is kind of shocking. So, John, good morning, brother. Marlon, let's try to get through a whole show without any mic issues. Let's do it, brother.
He said if you do, Hassan's gonna give us $100. He said so. Let's say if you do it.
Better get that 100.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, listen. There was no way he was winning. You know what I mean? So it was inevitable at some point he would step down. I mean, the guy is politically. I mean, you can't knock the guy. Like I said, he's a character. He's a disgrace as a mayor. He's a disgrace as a former police officer. I mean, he's a disgrace as a New Yorker. He's a disgrace as a Black American. He's a disgrace as someone who rose from poverty. I mean, the guy's a complete disgrace, but you can't knock his political prowess. I mean, the same way that Cuomo resigned as governor so that he wouldn't be impeached is the same thing that Adams basically did here. What Adams said is, I have no shot at winning. I've never lost an election before, and I don't want to show people how unlikable I really am. The lowest approval rating of any mayor in New York City history, including Bill de Blasio. He's way lower than Bill de Blasio's approval rating. So if he would have lasted until the election, New Yorkers would have clearly saw that how little support he actually had. It was all fluff. It was all fake. And so I was right. You guys were wrong. Time to shave your heads, both of you. Thanks.
Actually, I don't think we had Adams quitting on the bingo cards. I'm actually surprised he did that because this is a guy who hates basically admitting he's wrong, and so that kind of surprised me. But good morning, Chad. Good morning, everyone. Hope you all had a great weekend. I gotta say again, this came at a surprise, and what wasn't a surprise, though, was seeing Adams, try to manage perception even till the bitter end. He comes down. We'll get to it, but he comes down and talks to the camera with a picture of his mom. I mean, come on, guy. Picture of your mom. But yeah, we had a busy weekend, and we have a lot to talk about today. So without anything further, let's get the show on.
So the other problem, not necessarily a problem, but now the election is wide open, right? Election is wide open. Mayor Eric Adams obviously is going through weak polling, donor fatigue. But even with that, which is interesting, which, by the way, shout out to you, John. That was a great job. You put out a video talking about the unions that they need to now get on board and endorse Sliwa. But I think it's interesting with weak polling. This is a crazy election. Weak polling, donor fatigue. Mayor Eric Adams got so much support from the unions. It's kind of ironic at this point. So it just says a lot to me, right? I mean, you got to laugh at that. I was shocked, but I'm shocked by this. But here's the problem also. Even though the election's wide open, the timing now leaves Jim Walden, who dropped out of the race, and also Mayor Eric Adams, but they'll still be on the polling cards. So that, so to people that are not paying attention, who may think that the two of them are in the running, may actually get a vote on the ballot cards. So is it a big deal because he was polling so low anyway? Not necessarily, but right now with an election wide open and this battle between Mamdani and Cuomo with the dichotomy of Sliwa. Every vote at this point counts, especially since the city suffers from voter apathy. So, I mean, let's brace for impact and let's see what's going to happen. This is quite interesting. I wonder what Eric Adams has up his sleeve at this point. I wonder what was so encouraging for him to step down now. Is it a job? Who told him? What is the special interest group behind this special interest person? And I'm sure it'll come out, but the timing's impeccable.
Well, I mean, dude, he's always wheeling and dealing. The guy's a hustler. But at the end of the day, he had to step down, and like his political life was on the balance. Like he was never getting to that election. He was never getting there. There's no way he was not going to show people that he was going to get 1% of the vote. I don't even think he would have got 1% of the vote, honestly. I think, honestly, if I would have ran, I would have beat him, which is insane. I would have got more votes than him, which is insane to think. He's the incumbent mayor. It would have never happened. And honestly, I think if you look in history, I don't think this has ever happened either in history. I think we got another first in the Eric Adams campaign. I haven't totally confirmed it, but I'm pretty sure, just going off my head, I'm pretty sure there's never been an incumbent mayor running for re-election who seized his re-election campaign. So he did that like for his political life. I mean, he had zero shot whatsoever from the beginning, and honestly, I'm telling you, I was getting fatigued. Like voters shouldn't be fatigued. Like I was getting fatigued fighting with everyone saying where are you getting that he has a base? Where are you getting that he has any vote whatsoever? He couldn't win the Democratic primary. He couldn't win the Republican primary. How in God's green earth is he getting enough votes and he's going to squander enough votes to win the seat of the mayor? He can't do it. It's impossible. And now it's the same people that was sitting there and arguing with me for months and months. And by the way, I'm going to say it right now. All of you fake Republican conservative grifters, all of you, because it's disgusting. Arguing with me for 3 months that this guy, he could save us from Zohran Mamdani. And I'm like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's not the truth, and now yesterday happens. I start getting the call early in the morning. Adams is dropping out. He's doing it today. I'm like, get out of here. I'm almost didn't even believe it. And then sure enough, then I see Sid Rosenberg tweeting about it. And then I'm like, oh, shit, I think he's fucking dropping out. And then sure enough, he drops out. And what happens immediately? Only Cuomo could save us from Zohran Mamdani. Newsflash, people. Cuomo just got destroyed in the Democratic primary. He got destroyed he cannot win. He's unelectable. You know how many people across New York State and New York City would never vote for Cuomo? I'm one of them. Give me the option between Zohran Mamdani and Andrew Cuomo. I'm not voting. There is no way I could look at myself in the mirror and vote for that man. He caused thousands, tens of thousands of people to die before their time due to his policies. And you're going to sit there and tell me that only Andrew Cuomo could save New York City from Zohran Mamdani? Who's going to save you from Andrew Cuomo? Who's going to save you from the guy who dictated what food was, who shut your business, who forced you out of your career, who held you from having a funeral for your parents, kept you out of the hospital from seeing your sick kids and your sick parents, dictated these medical protocols? The guy's a moron. The guy could barely read. He was like, he would be a high school driver. His father wasn't Mario Cuomo. He would be in the butcher shop right now. Like, you know what I mean? He'd be like, yeah, bro, I think I'm going to vote for that Mamdani guy. I like him, Like, this is like, come on. The guy's a loser, and you're sitting here telling him he's going to save you? You were trying to run from him in 2020. It's disgusting, man. It really is. It's disgusting. I can't, if we would have made this bet in 2020 that people in New York City are going to be begging for Andrew Cuomo to come save them, I mean, I never make that bet with you. I mean, it's no way. No one's ever voting for this guy ever again. He killed thousands of people. Oh, he's under criminal investigation, by the way, too. Let's forget about that, right? I guess Trump's DOJ is just going to secretly not prosecute him again anyway, right? We'll just forget about that, right? We'll forget about that. That little scam didn't work. So let's weaponize the Justice Department a little more, and we won't investigate him. Sorry.
Yeah, to be fair, John, all those criticisms of Cuomo are basically Eric Adams. I mean, sure, he didn't lock older people up in the homes, But I mean, look at the damage he caused with COVID. Yeah. And let's not forget that Eric Adams was under indictment. Yeah, I mean he had a cloud he had an investigation around him, and there was a lot of allegations, and we know he was headed on the road for that until Trump pulled those strings for him. So I think those people who were ready to vote for Eric Adams, Cuomo. I don't think Cuomo is that much far off, and I unfortunately I don't think many of those people are still thinking about the scamdemic, and all the problems it has caused to New York City and New York State, and that we're living through. But I'll say I've said it before, and I'll say it again: whoever gets into that office, I think they're going to be surprised at where the fiscal state of the city is. And again, those are as a result of the policies which killed businesses and drove a lot of people out of New York City. And again, Cuomo did exactly the same thing for New York State. But to your question, John, there has only been one other mayor who stopped his re-election bid, and that's Fiorello LaGuardia. And it's not quite the same because LaGuardia was very popular, and he was mayor 3 times, and apparently his fourth term, he stopped his re-election bid. But Eric Adams, from what I've seen, is the first one to certainly be a one-term mayor and dropped his re-election campaign. And that just tells you how much of a failure he is. And I said it before that I said before that he's going to be the A-beam of this generation. I mean, right now, a lot of people may be thinking he's David Dinkins 2.0, but I'm telling you, when that new guy gets into City Hall, whoever he is, and he sees the fiscal situation of New York City, which has already been alluded to by the Treasury Secretary, who said that if Mamdani does what he does, they're not going to bail out the city. Question is, why would you bring that up? That's pretty. If the city was very healthy, why would you go that far? But whoever gets in there and sees the fiscal situation is going to realize that Eric Adams is actually this generation's A-beam.
So now I'm curious by all this, and so I'm looking at the unions, right? So John, because you put out that video yesterday, and I thought about the unions a lot in this. Are the unions now fractured by endorsing Eric Adams, who is the lowest polling mayor, claims to be the law and order mayor, just a complete failure right there? Or can the unions redeem themselves by getting behind a mayor that actually has a law and order base and supports law enforcement and has a public safety plan, or at least willing to have a public safety plan for New York City? So that's my question with this. Can the unions at this point redeem themselves and really come up with a good explanation of why they're now going to endorse, let's hope they get behind Curtis Sliwa. And if they do they remain fractured, or can they redeem themselves and say, okay, we supported Eric Adams. Now that Eric Adams out, we support Curtis Sliwa, and why? So I've been thinking about this. So John, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that they're fractured by this, or is there redemption in this?
So I personally, I don't think the unions are fractured at all, because I don't think they act independently or separately or have their own thoughts whatsoever. I put that video out just to show like the men and women of not only the New York City Police Department, but of New York City and the world, that the unions don't support public safety. They don't support their own members. They support their own individual pockets and their own individual needs and desires. They're a bunch of grifting politicians. That's what they are. They're not cops. They were cops at one time. Some of them, most of them weren't, and so when you look at it and you're like, all right, well, a normal person, you're looking back and you're saying, all right, yeah, they're going to support the best interests of the cops, right? We know that not to be true. So really what the reality is for the unions is this. they yield to power, right? They yield to power. Eric Adams was in office. Eric Adams was like, you're going to come out and endorse me right after this corruption scandal. No problem, boss. Now, the PBA didn't come out and endorse him. The only union that sat out. They didn't come out and endorse him. But the PBA also yields to power. So the PBA is in a really bad spot now. So what they're going to do is they're going to play the Joe Borelli Republican. They're just going to put their horse blinders on. They're going to be like the horse on. They're pretending. The unions are now going to forget that there's a mayoral election in New York City.
We don't see nothing.
They don't see nothing. They don't even know there's a mayoral election, because the problem is this. How do you think the reaction would be from Kathy Hochul if they came out and endorsed Andrew Cuomo? Because at the end of the day, Andrew Cuomo does not want to be the mayor of the city of New York. He wants redemption. He wants higher office. This is like, you think Andrew Cuomo cares about the fiscal state of New York City, Marlon? He's not going to be there the whole time. He has no desire to be the mayor of New York City. He could give two shits. He's not fixing one thing that's going on in New York City. He's getting in there. He's going to get behind, have his morning meetings again. He's going to be like, yeah, this is what we got to do now. I need 30, 40,000 cops. What do you want me to do? Blah, 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 blah. He's going to do all that shit, try to get himself to higher office. And so the PBA, they can't come out and endorse Cuomo, because then they're dead in the water with Kathy Hochul. And the same goes for the DA and all of them. They're not going to, no one's going to do it. And what are they going to do? They're going to endorse Zohran Mamdani. They would more likely endorse Zohran Mamdani, in my opinion, than they would an actual person who cares about public safety, who the cops like, who the cops want, who would be good for the department, who would be good for public safety. Then they would get behind the Curtis Lewa. They yield to power. That's just the sad truth of the matter. And Scott, Pat, Vinny, whatever, Chris, Lou, you guys are welcome to come on here and debate it, but I guarantee you won't. My prediction is this. My prediction is the unions are going to pretend there is no such thing. The mayor election isn't happening, and they never endorsed Eric Adams. They never heard of the guy before. And now they're going to go to war once again with bail reform and all this nonsense, while really secretly, I won't be shocked, and I'm going to be checking in the months coming up to, in the months following the election. I wouldn't be shocked if they snuck a couple of thousand to Cuomo's campaign. Hey, what do you want me to do? I got to control 425 here.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm gonna actually disagree with you on one point, John. That Cuomo he actually will care about the fiscal situation, and I'll tell you why. And it aligns with his redemption arc. He's gonna care because he's gonna have to wheel and deal. Okay, and a lot of these big real estate guys, like we've talked about in the past, about the casino situation. And the city of Yes plan to redistrict the entire city and like put basically put large apartment buildings in areas that traditionally didn't have them, and all this stuff, all this schemes with big real estate. Well, Cuomo is gonna his part of his redemption arc is, if he works with these guys, they're definitely gonna help push him back up, maybe to I don't know if he can run again to be governor, but certainly the higher office. They will definitely help him if he helps them out. When you have big names like Bill Ackman, who's we've said before, is already working on $1 billion real estate development in South Street Seaport. When you have guys like that who have put so much money on the line, and you work with them, I can't see why they wouldn't, help further along his redemption and move to higher office. And whereas the union is concerned, I think they're all self-interest and they're all grifters. And we've talked about how Cuomo isn't much different from Eric Adams, so I can't see. For now, they're going to stay quiet, but it's going to be back to business as usual in a couple of months when Cuomo's in it. And so I mean, if Mamdani gets in there, we've already said that Mamdani's he's a rich elite himself. He comes from elite circles. Sure, they may be a little bit wacky with the progressive stuff, but behind all of these guys, with the exception of Curtis Lewa, which is why they don't want Curtis in there, is big money. Big money, elitism. So I don't think you're going to get anything much different between Cuomo and Mamdani. Okay, it's just a matter of time before they let things cool out and let you forget that they backed the losing fourth place candidate, and then they'll be back to business as usual, and making promises that will never happen in Albany. So
I think it's actually pretty simplistic at this point to identify and say, why did the unions support and endorse Eric Adams, who's been through controversy after controversy, scandal after scandal, an administration that can't be trusted? It says a lot about the unions. And the only way that this is going to show an actual fracture, I think they are fractured if the cops actually start to push back, and all the ranks in different unions say, wait a minute, how do we endorse Eric Adams when he was the one not to be trusted? This is not a representative for law enforcement, for the profession, and especially someone who was a former cop. And yet the unions got behind that. So you have to ask yourself, what was their interest in this? And then, to me, it seems so simple at this point, right? The only candidate that would make sense, just even from a layman's person, anyone who's, whether you're into politics or not, just looking at it, the only one that would make sense is Curtis Lewa, because Mamdani's plan is completely off base, and it moves away from the police department, and it has a social worker base, which is not far off from Eric Adams, right? It's because Eric Adams' public safety plan was no public safety plan. It was just throwing darts at a wall and hopefully something comes out, and a data sheet that can't be trusted. And I speak to cops quite often, credible sources. I keep them anonymous, who tell me that it's, John, that we're 100% right. That shots fired, no one is struck, those are not being documented properly. It's just a reckless endangerment. So if no one's hit, it's not documented. So we're not getting a big picture, and the actual picture of when someone pulls the trigger and no one's hit. And that's huge. And that's what I've been saying. We've heard this perception versus reality narrative from this administration. And the reality is that people's perception of crime is accurate, because both homicides and shootings are by people that you are known to each other. I'm saying that's right, but it's the crimes that are done by strangers that we have to look at. And those are those robberies and stranger assaults that happen quite often in places that were kind of iconic, that showed where crime got better as a result of Comstat and the Giuliani eras, right? Central Park, Times Square, and even recently, an off-duty police officer being robbed in Riverdale. So now I'm curious, what is the voter mood at this point? Is public safety a top priority for this election? And to me, I would think that public safety is the top priority at this point, especially in this election. And it just doesn't seem difficult to me. It seems like an easy, just on the surface, or just in common sense, it seems pretty easy to me. Eric Adams' plan is ineffective, inadequate, and it's also an administration can't be trusted. The cost that we see by the leadership in this upper echelon is completely ineffective. It's inadequate. It's overdone. The numerous allegations, and then we move into Mamdani. It's the same plan as Eric Adams. And then if you look at Cuomo, it's very similar. Controversy after controversy. He wasn't indicted, but now he's under criminal investigation. Numerous sexual allegations. It's already a complete failure. So to me, I don't even understand why we're even looking at that side of the aisle. To me, the only fix and the only answer is Curtis Lewa at this point. And the fact that the unions did not endorse him, they should be getting a lot of pushback from all their members and saying, well, why are we endorsing someone like Eric Adams at this point that has weak polling, is not supporting us? How did we get to this point? And you're right, John. You're right, Marlon. Self-interest.
Yeah, I mean, so I'll just going to go back on your one question. Why did the unions endorse Eric Adams? Right? And I will, who wants to take the bet? Who wants to take the bet with me? Who wants to bet that you're going to see a promotion order and there's going to be a last name Monroe getting promoted and getting graded? Who wants to take a bet that right now Vinny Vallalong and Lou Turco, like, yeah, you got to get this guy in, not that McCary guy. Get that other guy in there. You know, you got to get that guy in. I need this guy promoted. Not that guy. This guy. Like, so, you know, again, it was self-serving interest, you know. So
John, I need a picky ring for today's episode, by the way.
I should get mine. It's not mine. It's my fault. I don't
Get out a picky ring.
You know, hey, how you doing? Maybe I'm gonna get a finest unfiltered pinky ring. And 1804 Bank says he's not gonna have a job on day one. You got a job with us, bro. We take care of our own here. All right. Happy hours with JMC. You know, Thursday night, 7 p.m. You got a job with us, bro. Don't worry about it. You
can come in my RV. Come travel with me.
There's redemption here in the finest unfiltered. But honestly, that's what I think. So, like, to me, I'm real jaded on the whole situation with the unions because I know it's not real. They don't care. Like, I just know it's you know, they never thought he could win. They knew he couldn't win. It was a political move by Adams. He did try, and he had a lot of people gaslit. He had New York City saying, we're voting for Eric Adams. But when they really started to think about it, like, am I voting for Eric Adams? And so we're in a real dangerous period right here where people still have that in their head, but it's not Eric Adams anymore. It's Andrew Cuomo. They're listening to the talking heads on TV. They're listening to the Midwest social media influencers who just told them to vote for Adams, now telling them Cuomo's their only shot, and they're confused. But we're going to make them remember who Andrew Cuomo is in 2020. So I'm going to say it again. You want Cuomo to save you from Mondani, but you really need someone to save you from Andrew Cuomo. So there's only one choice that you have that's different. It was a 3-car Mondani scheme. We told you that. No matter who you're voting for, you get Mondani. You're voting for Eric Adams, you're getting Mondani. You're voting for Cuomo, you're getting Mondani. It's the same thing happening. They're down 1 card now. So it's you're voting for Cuomo, you're getting Mondani. You're voting for Mondani, you're getting Mondani. The only choice you have is to grow your pair of nuts, put your balls on the table, and vote for Curtis Sliwa. We could actually win this election. Like I said from the beginning, Curtis Sliwa is the only one with a shot to beat Zohran Mondani. The minute the Democratic primary, and I'm sticking with that today. The only reason Curtis Sliwa loses is because conservatives, moderates, and Republicans who are unprincipled turn around and vote for a tyrant who's incompetent, a disgraced governor, and Andrew Cuomo. It's the only reason he loses. If people stay strong together, Curtis Sliwa wins the seat of the mayor. Andrew Cuomo has no business being in the election anymore. He got kicked out of his own party. He molded candidates like Zohran Mondani. He's not keeping you safe from anything. Everything that you're worried about with Zohran Mondani is coming in under Andrew Cuomo. And again, Marlon, I don't agree with you at all. He doesn't give a shit. You think he's just as much a hustler as Eric Adams. Everything's good. We're good. We got 34,000 cops. It's like, I think there's only 10,000 there though. No, we're good, bro. Don't worry about it. It's like the city. What do you think he's going to have a problem? No, he's going to be, the rich aren't going to care. They're going to love Andrew Cuomo. Well, we're just going to give more migrant contracts out. Nothing. Don't worry about it. Everything's going to be good. Going to be just like when we were first married. Everything's good. Don't worry about it. He's a hustler, bro. I'm telling you.
Yeah. Well, that's why I think he's going to care about the fiscal situation. I'm not saying he cares about the city. I'm saying he cares about the money, because the big guys, who the power players in the city, looking at their own interests and looking at like, oh, I'm going to lose a lot of money on this deal. I need to get this deal done. I need to get my luxury condo in South Street Seaport. So I don't think he cares about, like, again, we're small fish in the city, you know, unless you're a part of the billionaire donor class, you're small fish. And right now, when the city is facing potentially facing some fiscal problems, the receipts just haven't hit yet. The people at the top are looking at you like you don't matter. These guys pay like half of the budget. You know, they matter more than you do because we need their money for the budget. So and that is, in my opinion, that is the elephant in the room, and that is the real reason why Scott and Vinny and the other guy, who's the other guy, the LBA guy,
Turco,
Louis Bada Bing.
Yeah. In my opinion, that's why they all push for Eric Adams, because Eric Adams is close to the ear of the president, and And if things go really south, it's good to be close to the guy who's close to the money and the guy who can potentially bail you out, you know. But I think I think it's wrong for us to think. See, I think the problem is that the unions are part of the city's corruption industrial complex. You know, they're not that it's easy. It's we shouldn't think of them as like looking at for the real interest of membership. You know, they're part of the system, and the system is corrupt. We've talked about it for decades. We've talked about how for decades the city has been embroiled in some form of corruption or the other. And I just think that the unions are all part of that system, and they exist to further that system rather than to further the interests of membership. The whole you pay your dues and we're gonna take care of you, we're gonna look out for you. That's just a ruse. Okay, the real objective is to continue things and to protect those in the upper echelon and to protect the system at large, and not to save an individual detective who may be facing termination for refusing to get the vax or any one of us, you know. So I think it's if you think that the unions are it's hard for us to figure why they would go for this candidate or the other if you think about it in terms of the union actually doing their job. But it's easy to understand when you realize they're here to protect the system. And that's my point on that.
Marlon, you're spot on. I think that's a great point. And that's why I asked that question, because it's kind of facetious in a sense, right? Because if a union was really about its members, you would say this just doesn't make any sense. It seems that the best mayor that would support law enforcement would be Curtis Lewa. He's a lifelong New Yorker. He's always been a leader for New York, even when it wasn't trendy. He was always a lifetime New Yorker. And he loves the NYPD. And in essence, he understands it in a way, right? Because he supports his guardians, and his guardians are out there trying to help the city. They're doing foot post, very similar to the NYPD, and they're doing it without guns. They're guys that have, some type of training, very minimal, but they're there and they're good hearts to help out. So he understands law enforcement. So when you look at the unions, I think that's a good point. What is their job? So it not necessarily, it doesn't appear that their job is to support the members. It's to support this circle, this unionship of people that are there that have the real minis. That's why the last episode on Friday on our roundtable, I said to myself, and I said it here, what would the union look like if the union trustees and the board members had more appearances, or a certain amount of appearances throughout the year where they're actually in uniform, hit the streets? Now they have more of an intimate relationship with the boots on the ground. And would they look more like cops than public officials? And I think that's the real separation that's caused a major problem. And most of these guys do look like public officials. They call themselves cops, but honestly, they're not. They've been there for 30 some odd years. Most of them have not actually done any actual police work since the late 90s. And police work evolves. If we look at how police work is conducted right now, it's completely different from the late 90s. It's not the same animal. You can't even operate the same way that you do today. At least in the late 90s, you were working under policy and law. Now, the most important thing is optics. And there's one big thing that changes everything. And they never had to wear that. That's a body camera. And that changed the profession entirely. So how could they actually have an understanding? So that's why I think this is very interesting also now. If we compare Adams to Cuomo, I don't even understand how Cuomo is even in the running at this point. Both Adams and Cuomo had a rise in power in politics, and they both fell from grace. They fell from grace. So how are we actually appointing or looking to appoint or elect Cuomo? How is he even in the conversation? And how is he being endorsed by people that have prominent careers? Not trying to pick on him, but Jim Walden, for instance, who spent a life of integrity, a former prosecutor, for him to endorse Andrew Cuomo, for me, I find this complete disappointment. Because Andrew Cuomo just the complete scandal around the nursing homes, and I was personally affected by it. Say I lost my father in a nursing home, but even without that, because we understand that his policies led to the deaths of our most precious. That's our elderly who pass on the gems of wisdom, and that nursing scandal led to his resignation in 2021. Eric Adams fell from grace also through controversy after controversy. And the both of them are very similar. Both of them have sexual allegations against them. Both have administrations that cannot be trusted. And Andrew Cuomo, even further, to my understanding, and John, I think we spoke about it too, that Andrew Cuomo had a very toxic workplace. So how are we even supporting this guy? How are we getting behind him at all at this point? It doesn't seem to make any sense. And we compare it to Mamdani, and his policies are very similar, if not the same plane as Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo. 3 peas in a pod. So hopefully we could push hard enough. There's about 5 weeks left, and we could get Curtis Sliwa as the mayor of New York City. Now, I've heard people have called me numerous times, and I've gotten texts like, oh, Curtis Sliwa's lied in the past. He's made a lot of mistakes. I said, okay, that's fair. But what you said was he made mistakes. Yes, he made mistakes in the past. He spoke about them. Everyone makes mistakes. But you know what's interesting? He wasn't the mayor of New York City. Eric Adams made his mistakes. He's still making mistakes while he's the mayor of New York City. Andrew Cuomo made mistakes while he was the governor of New York and still making mistakes. So everyone makes mistakes, but if anyone deserves a chance, it's Curtis Sliwa, because he didn't make these mistakes while he was the mayor of New York City.
So a couple of things here, right? Like, one, I totally agree. To me, the COVID thing is completely unforgivable. I think a lot of people give him a pass though, because they're like, it was a global pandemic, and that's why a lot of people give him a pass. To me, I don't give him any pass. Like, I would have stuck with my police training. You're not a doctor. Don't give medical advice. I would have been like, I don't know. I'm not making that. I'm bringing in a panel of doctors from all over the board, all different schools of thoughts. What do you guys think? And I'm ultimately going along with the Constitution and the laws of New York State, which for some reason we suspended in New York and nobody had a problem with. So if you guys have no problem with suspending the Constitution and suspending your rights, vote Andrew Cuomo. That's that simple. Don't worry about it. He has no problem taking your rights away if that's what you like. You got an American flag outside your house, but you got a "Don't tread on me" flag. But you got treaded on in 2020, bro. So it's to me it's a joke. So that's one. Like he's unforgivable to me, but people give him a pass for whatever reason. I personally think he should be in jail. He should have been in jail before Eric Adams. But let's move on to public safety now, right? For 4 years of Eric Adams, what's been the number one topic around public safety? Bail reform, right? Every show and their mother calls me, John, could you come on and talk about bail reform? And I'm like, they don't really want to talk about bail reform. They just want me to blame bail reform. You know what I mean? Like, they don't want me to talk about the problems they don't want me to give a solution for bail reform. They just want me to blame bail reform, even though 99.9% of all the law enforcement experts couldn't even explain to you what bail reform is, how it works, why it affects public safety, right? So who wouldn't pass a budget in New York State without bail reform being in it? Oh, I know. Andrew Cuomo. So for 4 years, Eric Adams, New York City, violent crime has been on the rise. It's continued. It's still up till today, since the day he took office. And for 4 years, crime rose. Crime's been the quality of life, and the quality of life in New York City is up. People don't feel safe in New York City, on New York City streets and in New York City subways or on buses. And now, when the media starts to push Eric Adams, what does he blame? Recidivism. What's recidivism a result of? Bail reform. He then cleans up his corrupt administration. He didn't really clean it up, but they give it a little shower. They shower it up. They give it a haircut. They trim up its beard a little bit, and they appoint Jessica Tisch as the police commissioner of the NYPD. And what does she talk about? Recidivism. Recidivism, people. Recidivism is when a A repeat violent offender is arrested and let out time and time and time again, awaiting their court trial. Rikers Island isn't a jail in the traditional sense. Rikers Island is a jail where you go to while you're awaiting court. That's where we put our most violent offenders while they're waiting court. The guy that stabbed somebody, the guy that raped a girl, instead of him walking out on our streets, because the chances of him repeating that or those type of offenses or becoming a recidivist are high. So he sits in Rikers until that court case happens or those numerous court cases happen. What bail reform did was say, no, you know what? Let's keep this guy out. Let's keep this violent repeat offender out on New York City streets. And Andrew Cuomo sold it to you under the guise of it was just like a poor kid smoking a joint and he couldn't afford to pay bail. When that's, there was a few issues that could have been corrected, but they destroyed the whole system. So he supported bail reform. He still till today supports bail reform. And if you ask Andrew Cuomo about bail reform, he tells you they fixed it. Yeah, we had a little problem. We fixed it. But yet, the Democrats, the pretend public safety Democrats like Jessica Tisch, like Eric Adams, like all of them are sitting there going on the news day after day telling you recidivism problem. What they're telling you is what you should hear when you hear recidivism or you hear bail reform, you should hear Andrew Cuomo's an effing moron. Because we have Andrew Cuomo to thank for this. We have Andrew Cuomo, and then I won't even get into the discovery laws, but that's just another thing. I'm not even going to get into the 50A, where cops have been completely emasculated and their records go on longer than we have criminals. I'm not even going to get into any of that. The father of bail reform is also the father of recidivism. His name's Andrew Cuomo, people. His name is Andrew Cuomo. Public safety and Andrew Cuomo are like oil and vinegar. They don't mix.
Yeah, I agree, John. And, I'm going to say that we're probably, because of that, all of that, and the consequences of all of that, which we're currently living through, I'm going to say that we should probably expect we should probably expect more perception management coming from him this time, as opposed to, if we're saying if he gets into that office, okay, because just like Eric Adams, he has to essentially run against his past, because a lot of the problems that we're facing now are because of what he's done in the past. So I'm going to say that we should probably expect a heavy dosage of perception management coming from his camp. And I just want to point out also before we go on that if you saw the Eric Adams video, he did, again, I mentioned before, he did a lot of perception management in first bringing down a picture of his mom, but he also talked about lowering crime, and he talked about the other accomplishments too, which were all lies, but he talked about crime. So the thing I'm trying to get at is that both of these guys, they made mistakes in the past that the city is living through the aftermath on, and none of them wants to come clean and admit it, because it means it has terrible ramifications for their legacy, and it means that they were abject failures as leaders. And I don't expect we're ever going to hear either one of them admit it. And if Cuomo gets in there, we should expect him to continue doing the exact same thing that Eric Adams did, which is try to manage your perception of reality right now and of what he's done in the past.
I think it's obvious at this point that, Eric Adams had all this tough talk about public safety. He was a major fail, and we see it now. Robberies and assaults are astronomical, and in the key indicators that I always talk about, Central Park, Times Square, Riverdale, places that we consider iconic tourist locations for New York City that are, for the most part, a majority of safe locations, we're seeing crimes happen by strangers. not even people by known to each other. To me, that's an indication that crime is out of control. And these numbers don't reflect that maybe crime is down with homicides and shootings, what they're saying. But to me, again, that goes to show you that that's not necessarily a good indicator of crime. And it's unfortunate. We don't want any loss of life. But I really think it's the crimes that happen by strangers that's a good indication of what the state of the city is. And we know it because we were all cops. Active retired know it. Most homicide investigations are people that are known to each other, and even shootings. Now, I'm not saying that means crime is any better, but there's a different way to tackle those type of crimes, right? Gangs, people known to each other, investigations, but robberies and assaults by strangers is an indication that there's really not a plan. Eric Adams' plan of these quasi anti-crime teams was not an effective tool because we didn't have veteran police officers do that job. Anti-crime in plainclothes with veteran police officers is the best intrusive policing tool you could use to combat those type of crimes, robberies, assaults, especially when it came to a very political point during Mayor Eric Adams' tenure when we talked about illegal military age males, which was illegal immigration, which Eric Adams took a complete 180 spin on when he started to butter up to Trump in his administration. And then we look at Cuomo, right? To me, Cuomo is pretty much anti-Second Amendment. He's the one that implemented the SAFE Act, which put a ban on certain ammunitions and what they call assault rifles. And yet, at the same token, really put a boot and a hard strap on New York City with bail reform. And what's interesting about that, and John, you bring up a great point, is that Eric Adams' entire administration, well, we talk about this quite often also, with this perception management, was to point blame at bail reform and recidivism, and it all comes from Andrew Cuomo. So Eric Adams, who's weak in polling, that has zero plan, is telling you also that Cuomo's plan doesn't work either. And then if we look at Mamdani, there's no plan here that's going to be effective, especially in the animal of New York City. Every environment's different. Policing is not a one size fits all. And New York City needs an effective, an aggressive, assertive approach. And that's intrusive police work. And when we look at Mamdani, this movement away from NYPD at the top of the hierarchy and more of a social worker base is completely ineffective for New York City. I mean, I don't even have to see it right now. I can foreshadow it. And Eric Adams' plan was just a complete failure. If we look at every one of them, their plans in the past did not work for public safety. Eric Adams, we could see it in the present. Cuomo, we could see what it will be because it's good. What happened in the past is a good reflection of the future. And Mamdani is the same as the two. You can see Mamdani took some ideas from Eric Adams and some from Cuomo and kind of created their own shtick. But they're in the end, they're all the same. And to me, Curtis Lee was the only one that makes sense right now with public safety. He's the only one that wants to take an aggressive approach, have less bureaucracy within the police department, and increase manpower. And for anyone that believes that there's 34,000 cops, you have to start doing the math. There were less than 34,000 when I left. I don't know. Maybe, John, you left earlier than I did. It might have been less than 34,000 then. And we look at the mass exodus, numerous articles on it, major recruitment problem. How could we potentially have even close to 34,000? And the plan that we see in place is not working. It's costly and it's ineffective. And I talked to numerous police officers right now, and the way that crimes are being documented are cutting corners, and they're finding ways to manipulate stats. And that's scary. So whoever gets in office right now, even it's Curtis Sliwa, if they do the proper job, you will see an immediate increase in crime only because of proper documentation. It won't be a reflection of actual crime, but documentation is important so we can get an accurate look so we know, paint the picture of every time a trigger is actually pulled, what's happening. Someone's being assaulted, what's happening, what patterns are going on. We need real transparency. We need it now.
So Mike Freed saying we got to talk about Jim Walden. We're going to have Jim Walden on Wednesday to talk about why he dropped out of the race and is endorsing Andrew Cuomo. So that's going to be an interesting conversation. So there's no need for us to talk about that now. Pat Donahue had brought up a comment though that I think before we get off this, we should talk about. He said it appeared that mainstream media in New York was pushing Eric Adams for re-election. And I think what you meant by that, Pat, was Fox News, Newsmax, and the New York Post, because that's who I feel like those were the three main drivers of Eric Adams. Do you guys think that we're going to see the same thing from Fox News, New York Post, and Newsmax with Andrew Cuomo as we did with Eric Adams? Because I personally believe that's exactly what's going to happen. I think the president's going to give some little hints that we should be back in Cuomo. I think, he's going to talk about cats or whatever. So I personally think, he referred to it as possible yellow journalism. I don't think that it's possible. I think it actually is yellow journalism. I think it's meant they're part of the perception management campaign. They're absolutely part of it. Do they drive stories to get eyeballs? Yeah, sometimes. But more importantly is the political messaging that they need to go in line with. Again, how long did the New York Post have a Ukrainian flag up on their front cover? Like a year and a half, maybe 2 years. How long was the New York Post demonizing people who didn't want to be vaccinated? Writing stories about how an unvaccinated person, an anti-vaxxer, died of COVID. How long were they doing that for? So I think we've been experiencing yellow journalism for a long time in this country. I think just us as regular citizens who had faith in our institutions, faith in our agencies, and faith in the media are actually seeing what the game is. And they're really bad at it. And so I think what you're going to see is all this pro Cuomo BS out there. And that is meant to appeal to the low information base. The low information base that supported Eric Adams has moved on to Andrew Cuomo, and they don't even realize that they've done it.
Yeah, I'm going to say, yeah, we should expect that. You're going to get the same thing. And the reason is because, again, the media, like I noted about the unions before, they don't serve you. They especially they don't. Things don't work the way we think they do. Where a newspaper used to sell, you used to produce the news, you report the news, and then you sell it to the masses. You're basically selling content to the masses. All right, it doesn't work like that. See, the problem is the media is in a lot of ways, like those old institutions are dying, and they're in like their last legs, and they need support from the big money. They need those advertising dollars from the big money because the regular Joe Schmo is not reading them anymore. The regular Joe Schmo is coming on here to watch us. They're looking at other independent media and other people who are supposed to be independent. Okay. And we all know that the establishment has gotten their hooks into independent media as well, because you're seeing from people like Benny Johnson, but what I'm saying is that like old media are dying out, and they're on their last legs, and they need that support from big money who pays for the ads in their papers, and they also need what's left of their access to these politicians, to the big money. They need that access. So they're going to further the system as best they can, which means, acting as a propaganda arm for these politicians. So what we saw with Eric Adams, you're going to see the same thing with Andrew Cuomo. If these papers today were to actually report the news, if they were actually to not keep the NYPD news on the weekend, because you notice how much the big news hits the newspaper on the weekend news cycle, which is meant to bury it. Okay, if they actually did their job right, the system as we know it, how it operates now, wouldn't be there anymore. And the problem is they won't have the advertising revenue to support their paper. And the problem is also these papers are run by older people, older generations who have not adapted to the internet. and have not adapted to the new media. So if you got somebody young in there who made it into like some of the more up and coming papers, like we're talking about like the City and some of the younger, more agile newspapers, then maybe you'd see them still be able to move on into the new media, but they don't know how to do that. They don't know how to maneuver that. So they'll continue carrying water for the system until they no longer can. And carrying water means pushing propaganda for guys, corrupt failed politicians like Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo.
I think that's a great point and question that Patrick Donahue posed. And I look at it like this, right? So when I think when it comes to Zohran Mamdani, I think that he's going to get an enthusiastic approach from progressive newspapers, right? Like the Gotham, things like that. We'll see that for Zohran Mamdani, right? And then when you look at Curtis Sliwa, I think Curtis Sliwa is great for TV, right? But he's kind of a TV personality, but he's looked at as an outsider. So I think Patrick Donahue is actually spot on, right? Because if we look at mainstream media, that to me, it seems like that would be their choice to put out Cuomo. And I also think the reason why they'll put out Cuomo also is because everybody loves a comeback story, right? And Cuomo could be the comeback story, right? Everybody loves a story of redemption, right? The guy that's a loser who picks himself up and he starts his whole life again, right? And just everybody loves redemption, right? We watch movies, right? Some guy spends 20, 30 years in jail and he becomes a new person. He starts a whole new life. Everybody loves redemption. So Cuomo, I think, will be backed by the mainstream media, and I think he's going to be a comeback story. I think that's going to be the story behind Cuomo, is redemption. And I think that kind of what alluded to what you said earlier, John. I think that people have forgiven him already, and they're looking at like poor guy, not poor 1,000 souls that have died in nursing homes like my father. Poor guy Cuomo, that he had to be in this position to make such an important decision that was happening on a global level, right? Because the first case in New York was in New Rochelle, and he had to put his foot on and make these quick decisions because there were people that were loving him at the time, and even women by then would talk about how handsome Cuomo was. I mean, he became like this movie star. Yet people were dying left and right. I think it's inexcusable, right? I mean, I remember. Come on, remember this basketball courts were chained up. Kids couldn't play outside. It's the most insane thing. And to pick what was essential services. It was a communist type environment. But I do think it's going to be a comeback story. That's what I think it is. That's what I think the mainstream is going to. If I had to predict it, that the mainstream is going to put it as like a story of redemption. Because Zohran Mamdani is going to get that progressive base. Curtis Sliwa is an outsider. Cuomo is mainstream. So Patrick Donahue, you spot on, brother.
So, I just two videos I want to play about Andrew Cuomo. I got a lot more up my sleeve, and they're going to come in the next few months. So sorry, Rich has a party, and the rest of you, Melissa Russo. Sorry, guys. I got a treasure trove of Andrew Cuomo videos. So this is Andrew Cuomo on bail reform, because obviously not bail reform. This is the father of bail reform. This is Andrew Cuomo on defund the police, because we're going to hear about how Zohran Mamdani wants to defund the police, right? So listen to Andrew Cuomo. This is him as the governor. This is Andrew Cuomo in 2020. This is Andrew Cuomo on 2020. Here we go.
Different schools of thought. You want to say, oh, no, which do you think is the no-brainer? Is it a no-brainer to put more police? Or is it a no-brainer to say defund the police? They're both legitimate schools of thought.
Yeah, there's really absolutely nothing. And as according to Andrew Cuomo, there's absolutely nothing wrong with defund the police, right? Because it's a legitimate school of thought, and they all his whole camp is like, it's not fair, John. He didn't support it. It's like, no, he didn't necessarily get behind it, but he said it was a legitimate school of thought. And we all want to pretend that didn't happen. And so, you know, when you compare defund the police, when you talk about defund the police and you talk about Zohran Mamdani, you better also come up with the fact that Andrew Cuomo believed it was a legitimate school of thought. And it's not a knock on Zohran Mamdani then. You like defund the police then. And then we want to talk about communism. Do you know what's going to happen, John? Do you know what could happen if the city, we get rid of a free market candidate? Because I'm sure that's what Jim's going to bring up, is that Andrew Cuomo's a free market candidate. So Jim, I know you're probably listening to this. Does this sound like a free market candidate to you? This is the governor of New York State in 2020 dictating to businesses whether they could open or stay closed. And he did so because he went even further to dictate what was essential. And then he told you what food was. What qualifies Andrew Cuomo to tell me what food is? What qualifies that? What qualifies Andrew Cuomo to tell you who's essential business and who's non-essential business? Church wasn't essential, but liquor stores were. Here's Andrew Cuomo. You tell me you want to talk about communism? I don't think you people remember communism. I remember it.
To be a bar, you had to have food available. Soups, sandwiches, etc. More than just hors d'oeuvres, chicken wings. You had to have some substantive food. The lowest level of substantive food were sandwiches.
So chicken wings aren't food. Hors d'oeuvres aren't food, according to Andrew Cuomo. But a sandwich. Sandwiches is the lowest form of substantive food you could have. Meanwhile, most of the meat in deli sandwiches is carcinogenic. So, Andrew, let's explain something. More than likely, a regular chicken wing without any sauce, without any breading, is much healthier than your substantive food that you dictated, which is a sandwich.
Can't you just cut the chicken wings and put them inside the bread and make it a sandwich?
Nah, that's not substantive. That's not substantive, all right? We're talking about commies. We're talking about tyrants. But don't worry though. You know, Zohran Mamdani, he's a radical Islamist that everyone's calling him. And I'm like, really? Doesn't he support transgender surgeries? I was like, I know a lot of Muslims. You know, I don't agree with a lot of the Islamist policy that comes out, but I totally agreed in Dearborn, Michigan, when they said you're not teaching that garbage to our kids. And so Zohran Mamdani's pushing that garbage. Oh, guess who else is going to push that garbage? Nipple rings.
Yeah, choice between nipple. So ankle bracelets out, and now we got nipple rings.
Manklet gone, nipple rings here. And like, what are you even doing with the nipple rings? You're an old man. Like, what are you doing? Like, do you make them pull it? Do you pull it yourself? Do you get chained to it? Like, what happens there? How many times did you hang out with Anthony Weiner? How many Diddy parties did you go to? How many times have you and Eric Adams been in the same room naked together? These are questions that matter, and the press is failing. We need answers.
How come all these parties are not just surrounded by Anthony Weiner, but just some kind of wiener?
Yeah. How many times did he go to those freak offs with what's his name? Remember the health commissioner?
Vassan, Dr. Vassan.
Is Vassan?
Yeah, Dr. Vassan, right? Was it Vassan?
No, I think it's the other guy.
No, Vassan's the other loser.
Varja, right? His name is something like that.
Varma, Jay Varma.
That's
it.
Varma,
He probably chained nipples to each other. They probably like had connecting nipple rings.
Maybe they use a battery powered electric or something.
Yeah. You know what's funny? No matter how many times we make these points online, the same people keep pushing. Like, you know, they just ignore everything that Cuomo or you know Adams did. You know, no matter how many times, which tells me again, these people aren't doing this. They're not ignorant of what went on. They're just pushing an agenda, you know, and that agenda is getting Cuomo and Adams into office, you know, or Cuomo as it is now because Adams is gone. But I also want to point out how many times they mention radical Islam too, you know. Yeah, they mentioned radical Islam. They went, oh, he's a communist, without forgetting that the problem with both of those cases is the underlining authoritarianism. Okay. You know, let's not talk about authoritarianism, because then we're going to have to talk about what Eric Adams did, what Andrew Cuomo did during the scamdemic. And to me, again, that goes back to them, having an agenda. And whatever that agenda is, I've already told you what I believe it is, which is it goes back to money, budget, and the fiscal health of things. But whatever that agenda is, it's the reason why they're going with these guys and pretending that they're ignorant of what happened. They know full well what these guys did, and it's just not it's just not conducive to those plans if you keep talking, if you openly acknowledge it. I also want to say that again, we talked about how unprincipled a lot of these people are, and it goes for the we talk about low information people. The problem is that when you talk about a scandemic and what Cuomo did during the scandemic, is that it didn't affect a lot of people. It's like different things affected different people. There are some people who lost their loved ones, and because of the policy for older folks. Then there are others who lost their jobs. And the problem is that unfortunately, I think a lot of people are looking at it for self-interest and not looking at it overall. And when you look at like the unions and again the media, it's everyone's looking at it for self-interest and nobody's looking at the bigger picture. And I believe that though there's going to come a point where they're going to realize that they're going to have to come to terms with it. And we're just still a ways from that. But I believe that moment is coming, and that there's only so long they can go on pretending that these guys, didn't ruin New York City. And if I could for Zohan, I think in a lot of ways the younger people already realize it, because it's Zohan's base of younger people are looking at their lives right now. They're looking at the affordability and like the way things are going in society in general, and them wanting to vote for Zohan, even though we think when you look into it, he's no different from Adams and Cuomo. They're looking at him as being an alternative to the current system. So the young people see it. It's just like the older folks who are looking at self-interest haven't come to grips with it yet. But I think that's coming.
Another important factor, I think Cuomo can't be trusted at this point. We don't trust Eric Adams. Clearly, the appearance of impropriety, the scandal after scandal, the amount of corruption. But Andrew Cuomo just completely lied to the public when he said recently there was no lockdown. The businesses chose to operate in this manner. And yet he forgets in March of 2020 when he signed the Pause Act, which closed these small businesses. And what he determined, he became the authoritative dictator for New York State. And he determined what was essential and what was non-essential. Supposedly this was based on science and this was scientific. And yet small businesses in New York State suffered, met their demise, and most of them have never come back from that downfall and that decimate of during COVID. And who caused that? Andrew Cuomo. Why would anyone want him back here, especially in New York City, where small businesses are a dying breed anyway because of big corporation? So Cuomo's not going to help small businesses that are there still trying to survive, or anyone's trying to come about as a small business. He'll decimate them. I mean, who in their right mind thinks that Cuomo had the right to determine what's essential or what's not essential or what's food and what's not food? It's almost at the point you watch these videos from COVID, whether it's Andrew Cuomo, whether it's former Mayor Bill de Blasio, they're comical. they're laughable because it's almost, you watch them, it's almost like, did this really happen? Did we actually live through this? It's just insane. So Cuomo will destroy small business because he already did. Cuomo loves to use manipulate words and said he doesn't want to defund the police but reform them, and ultimately it's the same thing. He wants to reform the police department, and Eric Adams is cut from the same cloth. And so Mamdani's future public safety plan, because unless he gets elected or not, is based on social work. So they're all reformed. Defund, reform, whichever word you want to use, it's the same exact thing. It's just a complete mess for New York City. Andrew Cuomo is not the answer. This is not the comeback story. He is not the redemption kid because he's not going to redeem anything. He's not looking to make a change. He doesn't care about New York City. And so, Marlon, I agree with you. The only reason he cares about the fiscal operations of a New York City so he could build his platform and come back in a different manner. I do believe he wants higher office. Mamdani's not the answer, and neither is Eric Adams. 3 peas in a pod. Again, Curtis Sliwa, it's the only answer at this point. It's the only answer if we're going to get New York City on track. And even with Curtis Sliwa, it's still going to take decades because former Mayor Bill de Blasio destroyed the city, and Eric Adams just took it over the cliff and burnt it to a crisp. This is going to take decades to fix. It's unfortunate, but that's the reality.
Here's Andrew Cuomo on bail reform.
And equal justice means, regardless of the color of your skin, regardless of your wealth, you deserve justice, and a cash bail system violates justice. It's that simple. Cash bail means that if you are rich, then you get to walk. And if you are poor and you can't make bail, then you sit in jail. In New York City, the jail is Rikers Island. 86% of the people on Rikers are people of color. 76% of the people in Rikers have been found guilty of nothing. They are just awaiting their day in court, many waiting for 2 or 3 years. That is not justice. Rikers Island is a hellhole, and Rikers Island has to be closed, and it has to be closed now.
And then people forget, they forget that he actually opened the jails after this. If you notice that commercial was brought to you by Johnson & Johnson, so you could see who the hell he works for. But he actually did close the jails. He actually did let people out of jail. And people seem to forget that. And here he is on the campaign trail. This is Andrew Cuomo. He's not sorry about bail reform. He's not even acknowledging what he did. Here's Andrew Cuomo right now. We all know bail reform sucks, right? Nobody even argues. Even the lefties don't say it's a good thing anymore. Only the people who have severe cognitive dissonance or were directly involved in it play and say, oh, no, it was a good thing. No. The idea behind it was good, and you weaponized it, and what you did is tear down an entire criminal justice system and bring in more crime, so that only 5 years after people were begging to get Andrew Cuomo out of office, they're begging to get him back in office, and most of you morons are buying it. Here's Andrew Cuomo 5 years later, bail reform.
Cashless bail law when you were governor, as some critics have said, it's led to increased crime.
Yeah, cashless bail was signed about 6 years ago. Some people raised issues about not having enough judicial discretion in that bill. That has been changed. That has been remedied. So now it's up to the judges, it's up to the prosecutors to actually use their discretion and bring the appropriate charges.
So last Thursday you were asked,
One second. Also, remember, bail reform righted a terrible social wrong. We were putting people in Rikers, in jail, who hadn't been found guilty of anything just because they couldn't make bail. There was a terrible case called the Khalif Browder case, which was a young man who was accused of stealing a backpack, was sent to Rikers because he couldn't make bail, and wound up committing suicide, given what he was subjected to. it shouldn't be that because you're wealthy, then you can make bail and you're released. But if you can't make bail, then you stay in jail, even though you haven't been found guilty of anything yet, right? Innocent until proven guilty. Except we're going to set bail, send you to jail. You can't make the bail because you're poor, and you're going to do time, even though you haven't been before a judge yet. You haven't even had your case heard, and you could be in jail for a year or 2 years, given the backlog in the criminal justice system. So that's what bail reform was all about, and it was right. Governor reminded you.
And it was right. So there he is. He's using the talking point, and that's who they used. They used Khalif Browder. They used that case, that one specific case, and it was horrible. It shouldn't have happened. He shouldn't have been in jail, that kid. But they used that case to allow violent offenders, repeat offenders to walk on the streets, violent sex abusers to walk on the street, repeat people who are out in gang activity with illegal firearms. And here he is in 2025, still pushing that same 2019, 2020 talking point. He has no regret on it, and bail reform isn't fixed. And if you listen to Ric Flair and the rest of them go on media, and they're like, yeah, it was bail reform, gotta do, like they don't, like that's the only thing they could talk about, and now they're gonna stay silent when we could possibly have a Zohran Mamdani or this idiot as the mayor of New York City. You know, like I said, the premise of bail reform was a good thing, but what they actually did was horrendous. It was incompetent. This man should never hold public office. Him and Eric Adams, I would love to just give him a test. 2 weeks, give him a hot dog stand. It needs to operate 24/7. I guarantee it fails. Put it right in the most profitable spot in New York City. Give them 12-hour shifts. They wouldn't be able to hold it. They wouldn't be able to keep it. They're incompetent. This man is no different than Eric Adams. The only difference in him, he's a child of privilege. He never had a job. He came out of the womb as a politician. Guy's a skell.
Yeah, well, you know, I don't think these guys have any original ideas of their own here. I think these guys are just, you know, I think these guys are just puppets of bigger people, you know. And if you look at their agenda back then, so I've made note before that they wanted that part of the plan was to clear out Rikers Island, because like the same big money donor class, you know, has ambitions for Rikers Island. And I think, again, I think none of these ideas come from these guys. They don't come from Adams. They don't come from Cuomo. They come from the people behind them who are connected to the big money. And the plan is to close out Rikers and sell it. And there's $12 billion coming out of that. And you know, there's going to be a lot more money involved when you turn it into a luxury site. And there's money involved for the developers. There's money involved for the holders. There's money involved for Wall Street. So there's a lot of money involved here. And the same money that by the way, has been going into Cuomo's campaign now, you know. So I don't think that's a coincidence. And I don't think these guys have any original ideas of their own. I also don't think he was talking to regular people when he said that, you know. I think he's talking to the wealthy, you know. He's talking to wealthy people who, you know, they tend to be progressive, and a lot of it is because of you know, virtue signaling on their part, but it's also because they don't see the consequences of their action. You know, if you're one of these wealthy guys who live in a expensive neighborhood in Manhattan, you're not dealing with a lot of the nonsense that you're seeing. You're not dealing with the homeless guys. You're not dealing with worrying about being pushed on the subway. And even if your neighborhood is seeing an uptick in homeless guys or crime right now, you got your other house in the Hamptons to go on the weekend, you know. Or, you know, since a lot of businesses are doing remote working, including the CEOs, you just field calls from your pool side in the Hamptons, you know. So you're not really seeing the consequences of this thing. So when he's talking about bail reform, he's talking to wealthy people. Also keep in mind, like I said before, this same donor class pays 50% of the 50% of the budget depends on commercial real estate, and that money is coming from big money. And also, there's an article in the Wall Street Journal, maybe a couple months ago, that said that the top 10% of elites in this country are the ones responsible for all the spending, the consumer spending, because everybody else is broke, including the Zoomers, who I mentioned before, really like Zohan Mamdani because in a lot of ways it's a rejection of the system now. That's because they can't afford anything, and all the problems, right? All the problems that bail reform are especially hitting the young people, because they're the ones who can't afford to live in the best neighborhoods, have to take the subway, have to take the bus, have to walk around these neighborhoods, and they're seeing how things have deteriorated, and they just haven't put the pieces together and realized that Zohan is just like Cuomo or Adams, but they're voting for Zohan as a rejection of that system. So Cuomo or Adams, they're not talking to us when they talk about bail reform.
So it's important to understand. I think most people don't even understand what bail reform is, right? So bail reform is changing or limiting the ability of judges as far as what they put when it comes to cash bail. And it's meant as a leverage system to maintain potential public safety, right? When the evidence is overwhelming, even though you're innocent till proven guilty. But if the evidence is overwhelming and someone has a violent past, that could be used as leverage to keep the public safe. Now, when we look at bail reform, to me, I think it's a complete epic fail, and shows with politics how they constantly put Band-Aids on things. But when you remove that Band-Aid, then that Band-Aid was bail reform. When you remove that Band-Aid, the system is just a complete mess. Now, when you look at the Khalif Browder case, that to me was a political gift that the politicians used to create this bail reform. That case was a disaster. It was. And that was not a failure on the police department. That was not a failure on the system completely. That was a failure on what goes on at the courts. And it's unfortunate. This should have been looked at in a different manner, where instead of having prosecutors that are just completely understaffed, why aren't we putting more money into the court system and having more prosecutors so that they can handle evidence and handle these cases? Khalif Browder, that case was a disaster. He had no violent record before that arrest. I think he had one incident where he was arrested. It was just a joyride case when he was about 15 years old. He shouldn't have been sitting there that long. But the problem is with the prosecutors there, they were understaffed, and these cases crawl and they go on for years because, for one, yes, they're understaffed. And the other problem is there's such an emphasis put on these prosecutors that they have to win. They have to win. And so what do? They drag these cases out so that they don't go to trial, and they keep going back and forth with these defendants. Okay, we'll make a plea agreement. We'll make a plea agreement because it's all about winning. So we need to fix that system. Bail reform was the Band-Aid. We need to fix the root cause. And the root cause is what goes on actually at the court system with the prosecutors, and putting such an emphasis that they have to win in order for them to propel their careers, and put such an emphasis for people sitting there for low-level crimes. But the problem is, instead of actually peeling this back and look at the issues and getting to the root cause of the problem, they put this giant blanket over it, which was bail reform, and look at the decimation that it caused, because it allowed violent perpetrators on the street. So it didn't address the issue of people that are in jail like Khalif Browder. And I believe they used that case because it was a great political platform. They didn't really care about Khalif Browder. They used that case because that was the platform. And, Jay-Z had the documentary and really propelled him. Cases like that should not happen. But that Band-Aid of bail reform was a complete disaster. And the fact that Andrew Cuomo still supports it and said the changes were made in place that made it proper, absolutely not. The whole discovery laws behind it really caused a lot of problems. And what is that? It means that all evidence has to be turned in at a certain amount of time, and then violent perpetrators get away with legitimately murder if the evidence isn't in within a certain amount of time. The reality is it's New York City, it's New York State, bogged down, unfortunately extremely busy. But what we need to do is put more money into the court system so that we have more prosecutors, more detectives that are working for the DA's office, getting evidence and things like that, so these cases don't crawl. Because when these cases crawl, it does cause a major problem. I mean, in Khalif Browder's case, it was only $3,000 cash bail, but the family couldn't afford it. But using that case is not a good case to show when we have violent perpetrators that get out of the system because of bail reform.
Yeah, so I think last thing, and then let's get off Cuomo. We've been going a while on them, but Eddie West gives $20 to the podcast. He says, "Morning, gentlemen. What are the thoughts, predictions on the future of the upper echelon? I've proudly donated to Sliwa's campaign. Is there a chance in hell for him to win? I'm seeing more Sliwa signs in Brooklyn lately." All right, Eddie. First, thanks for the donation. Secondly, I already said I've been saying it. I know you've been listening. I've been saying it for months. The only person that could beat Zohran Mamdani is Curtis Sliwa. If you're not behind him, if you vote for Andrew Cuomo, you're voting for Zohran Mamdani. If you were voting for Eric Adams, you were voting for Zohran Mamdani. It's a 3-card Mamdani. So can Curtis Sliwa win? Yes, he can. But there needs to be a solidified base around him. And what I'm seeing right now is those same social media influencers that were telling you to vote for Eric Adams are now telling you to vote for Andrew Cuomo. And I'm seeing the same people that are like, I'm voting for Eric Adams. I can't believe I'm saying it, but I'm voting for Eric Adams. Are now saying, I can't believe I'm saying it, but I'm voting for Andrew Cuomo. If we could break that noise, Curtis Lee was your next mayor. I mean, I just don't know what needs to be done. I don't know what more we could say, what more we could do. We're going to go hard until November. That's all I can say is if you don't want Zohran Mamdani, push Curtis Sliwa. Curtis Sliwa has the best opportunity of any Republican since Rudy Giuliani to become the mayor of New York City. I told you guys even before the election that a Republican could win this race. And here it is. You're seeing it all play out. You're seeing everything come to fruition. He could absolutely 100%. What's the predictions for the upper echelon of the NYPD? I have no predictions for the upper echelon of the NYPD because there is no upper echelon of the NYPD. These people are not even scrubs on a JV team. They're not. I mean, look at them. They're pieced together, piecemeal team. They have no business in the positions they're in. Will there be a transition with the next mayor? There 100% needs to be a transition. If there's not, I mean, I feel bad for the people in New York. I feel bad for the rank and file cops. If there's not a transition, then you know that these people don't care about public safety and they actually want to continue to defund the police and they want less police officers in the NYPD and they're trying to alleviate that budget because you know, what will the upper echelon of the NYPD look like with a Curtis Sliwa victory? It's going to look really good. You're going to see not only people that are professionals in policing their entire career, but you're going to see them empowered. And maybe they were spineless at a point. Maybe they caved on something, but they're going to be empowered to do their job. They're going to do the right thing. They're going to be in an environment to flourish. And you will see recruitment in the NYPD go up. You will see a slight rise in crime immediately because the crime numbers will be real instead of what you're seeing right now and the fake shit that you're seeing on the news and the not reporting of the crimes and the misreporting from the NYPD. So yeah, there will be an uptick in the numbers, not a real one because it would just be the real numbers getting reported. And then you're going to see actual police work getting done and you're going to see crime go down and it's going to be a glorious time for New York City. It's going to be the New York City that we lived in for the last 20 years prior to 2020.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to slow down there, John. I don't think recruitment's gonna be going up like that. You know, we're dealing. I mean, we got to get through like at least a decade of malfeasance on the job.
Recruitment goes up immediately.
Think so?
If you put the right people in place and the cops are smiling on the street going, this is a great job, and you improve morale, you improve recruitment immediately. If you don't do that, you don't.
See, I tend to think that recruitment would go up, but we're going to have to get through a period that's going to be pretty rough, you know, because, for instance, whoever's coming in there has to deal with the reality of the fiscal situation, right? They have to deal with the reality of crime being underreported. So we're going to see a period where, like you've noted a couple of times, that you're going to see your crime numbers spike because it's not like it's actually spiking, but it's like we're actually reporting actual crime rather than trying to downgrade it and hide it. So that's going to go up. So I think we're going to see a period of a little bit of uncertainty and maybe a little bit of chaos, especially as the chairs are moved and there are people and systems in place that are going to be fighting tooth and nails, fighting to the death, because again, they don't want their crumbs to go away. So I think we're going to see a period of upheaval, and before we get to that point where the department can, the recruitment numbers are going to go up again. Now, I think definitely if you return under Curtis, I definitely believe you're going to see more accountability from 1PP, and you're going to see more discipline. I think we're going to go back to a department where there's consequences for bad behavior, regardless of who you are, And once that happens, along with us getting past the period of upheaval, we're going to, I believe then you're going to see recruitment actually go up, because the best candidates, once they see NYPD's back to being, the department, the police department in the country that you want to go to. Okay. Growing up, there was always two for me, it was either LAPD or NYPD, and we're on the East Coast. So it's NYPD, in terms of setting the table of how like law enforcement in this country, are supposed to be the examples, So I think once those are in place, then we can see recruitment go up, because you're going to be able to go to guys in the military who are just coming out, guys who want to be a cop but don't want to be in a shit show, But I want to say also that Curtis, I think, is the best guy for that job right now in terms of the interests of the actual New Yorkers, and not big business. And one of my bets was that Eric Adams was going to win, not because of Eric Adams, but because of electioneering, right? Electioneering and influence from big money. And now that he's leaving, I tend to think that what would have come under him is going to come under Cuomo, meaning you're going to see that electioneering from guys like Bill Aikman again, and other big business interests to push him to win. But without that electioneering, I think it's even questionable whether Cuomo would win, because the more people find out about, the more we talk about what actually happened during COVID and how the city is in a bad situation for it, and the more the fiscal situation actually comes to light, I think more people would wake up. So it's incumbent on the people behind Cuomo now to push propaganda for him and to electioneer so that people don't find out, because if they did, I don't think Cuomo would stand a chance. He'd just be like Eric Adams, in polling.
Well, there's a couple of things to discuss. First of all, coffee and donuts from Eddie West. My brother, we got to have a cigar together. Shout out to you. Thank you so much for going to that. Rafael Martinez, coffee and donuts from you too, brother, $20. What do you guys think of the rookie from the 4-4 that decided to transfer herself to the 5-2 and no one noticed for 2 months? Great question. That's actually one of our topics. We're going to get into that. We got another topic, and then we'll get into that. So Rafael Martinez, thank you for coffee donuts. Don't go away. If you're busy right now, don't go away yet, because we're going to discuss that pretty soon. But based on what Eddie West said, my brother, can Curtis Sliwa win? I think in a Democratic blue state, it is a long shot. Let's be honest. This is deep blue in New York State. New York City. It is a long shot. However, I do think that Curtis Sliwa, in this short amount of time, in the next 5 weeks, I think he can catch fire based on this. If he is seen as a crime fighter, and he's the crime fighter for New York City, and not just your political candidate, I think that's how he'll catch fire. And I think that's where he can win. Alongside, if the Democrats start tearing each other apart. If Mamdani and Cuomo start tearing each other apart, and Curtis Sliwa catches fire for being seen as the crime fighter for New York City, that's where I think he could get some steam. And that's where I think that Curtis Sliwa could actually win this. Because no matter what, the bottom line, this is a deep blue Democratic New York City battleground for Curtis Sliwa. And Curtis Lewa, we have to be honest, is seen as an outsider. And for many that like him, they like him, but they see him as a commentator, a narrator, a TV personality, but they don't necessarily see him as a political leader. But that's why I think where his strengths are is if you look at him as a crime fighter and someone who's a long life New Yorker. And as I said earlier, when it wasn't trendy to be a New Yorker, he was still a lifelong New Yorker, and he still is. And I think he needs to stick to his grassroots and who he is, and that's who he is. He's a crime fighter for New York City. He's a man who loves New York City. He's passionate. He's got charisma. He is a TV personality, and to be in New York City, you do need personality and charisma. That is one of those things that you have to have in New York City. I think that's what Eric Adams capitalized on, where he lacked and where his weaknesses were, even throughout all his scandals and controversies. He's a character. And people in New York City like that. New York City is a place for showmen. And Curtis Lewa is a showman. And I think if we could find that strength and capitalize and exploit him as a crime fighter and a long life New Yorker and deviate from your typical political candidate, I do think that Curtis Lewa in a long shot can win. And that's what's interesting now is where it's not, even though he's weak in polling, those law and order voters, right? You know, that's why I talked about the voter mood. Those people that support law and order, will those votes that they thought that Eric Adams was the man for law and order, will they now go to Curtis Lewa or will they go to Cuomo? And I hope if they're watching this, if you're thinking about law and order, you got to go to Curtis Lewa.
I just want to go on the polling real quick because none of what you're seeing in the polling is accurate. None of what these are the same. These are the same polls that told you that Andrew Cuomo was going to destroy Zohran Mamdani. These are the same pollsters. What's happening is when you have the big money, the big Bill Aikmans and all that stuff, what you do is you pay these poll people to go out and run polls. And guess what? They miraculously just don't publish the ones that they don't like. If you look at them, more than often, the polls say likely voters. What does that mean? I'm a likely voter. You're a likely voter. You're not even in New York. You're not voting in the next election. You're a likely voter. Oh, we polled 400 people. What? And you think that's a real poll? Oh, yeah, we got Curtis at 17%. Curtis doesn't have the money and has too much integrity to go around and do what they're doing. I personally think it's a mistake because I think too many people buy because it hooks the low information people. And so many low information people bite on these polls that are happening right now the same way they did on the Democratic primary. Like I told you originally under that, I'm like, Zohran Mamdani's winning the Democratic primary. These polls are garbage. We don't have any data to go on. These polls are all garbage. These polls are all garbage. Curtis Lewa has much more support than Andrew Cuomo on the streets of New York City. It's simple. It really is a simple formula. Just think about it. Take Andrew Cuomo and take Curtis Lewa, walk down 42nd Street, go from 8th Avenue down to 3rd Avenue. What's going to happen with Andrew Cuomo? He's going to need a security team. People are going to boo him. You're going to get a couple of Cuomo-sexuals, elderlies that want to take photos with him. Most people don't like him. You walk down, you do that same route with Curtis Lewa. You walk down 42nd Street. It's like you're walking with Hulk Hogan. Everybody loves him. Everybody loves the guy. The guy, when you now forget about that. Let's not even talk about that, right? So, unlikable candidate, very likable candidate. Westchester Hamptons guy, New York City guy, riding the train guy, limo guy hanging out in your local bar. This guy in foo-foo little nightclubs in the Hamptons, right? You know, so unlikable there. Now look at their donations. Look at Curtis Lee's donations. Who's voting to him? New York City residents, blue-collar workers, bus drivers, sanitation workers, cops, firefighters, teachers, business owners. People, the lifeblood of New York City is donating to Andrew Cuomo, is donating to Curtis Lewa. Those polls that you're looking at are garbage. The only candidate that could beat Andrew Cuomo and the only candidate that could beat Zohran Mamdani is Curtis Lewa. That is it. Those polls are absolute garbage. If we split the vote and you have these grifters going for Andrew Cuomo, Mondani is your mayor. I don't understand what people aren't getting here. Do not believe these polls. The only reason you're not seeing those pro Sliwa polls is because he has too much integrity to do it. And he's going against what I believe he should do. Because I know that most of you are fucking low information, excuse my cursing, but I know that most of you are low information voters, and those polls hook you, and you believe it because you didn't read, oh, we polled 100 people and they're likely voters. Oh, so they're not even New York City voters, and you voted 100 people? Oh, what neighborhood did you go into? Oh, we went into Williamsburg. Of course they support Zohran Mondani. Did you go to Staten Island? Did you go to Dungan Hills? Did you go to Tottenville? Did you go to Bay Ridge? Did you go to Dyka? No, you didn't go to any. You didn't go to any of them, right? You didn't go out into the red areas in Queens. You didn't go to the purple areas throughout Brooklyn and throughout Queens and throughout the Bronx. You didn't go to any of those areas. No, you just went where you knew you were going to get the result. And that's what you're seeing right now. Those polls are absolute garbage, and expect to see a lot of that polling come out in favor of Andrew Cuomo once again. And it's going to be the New York Post, Fox News, and Newsmax that are going to be pushing it. And they're going to be feeding you shit, because what they're doing is they're treating you like the police department treats everybody. Like you're a mushroom. They're going to keep you in the dark, feed you shit. Are you going to eat it?
Yeah, I know that's a good. I just want to say, sorry, Marlon, let me cut you off, but that's a great point. And when people look at these polls, they got to look at the footnote, the small print at the bottom, and see where these people are polling from, and see if they're actual registered voters, right? Because most of these polls are nonsense, and they really don't reflect what's going on. Again, I just think it's a long shot, but I do think we got 5 weeks. I think that Sliwa is a lovable character in New York City, and he can catch fire. He can catch fire. Some people are saying here in the comments that public safety is not the major issue right now in New York City. It's about affordability. And that's what Mamdani is attractive to. But I still think public safety is number one issue in New York City right now. I don't care what Adams is telling you about these crime numbers. You see it right now. It's out of control. Off-duty cops are getting robbed at an alarming rate. People are becoming victims constantly in the subways. The homelessness is out of control. The city looks like a gigantic mess. It's not a habitable place as it was before. It's not a place people are proud of. It's a disaster. So I think the voter mood is public safety number one.
Yeah, the safety versus affordability conversation is just surface level. You know, it's just surface level, and again, it's those points are for low information voters. The true conversation is about a declining New York. Okay. And the only candidate who's actually spoken about all the issues and why New York City is declining and why people are leaving New York City, well, the only two was Jim Walden and Curtis Lewa, and Curtis Lewa is the guy who can actually beat Zohan. Okay, so all John said, I 100% agree with, and this is why expect more propaganda and electioneering for Andrew Cuomo going forward.
Yeah, I don't believe any of it. All right, so that's it. Cuomo sucks. He can't win. If you want to pull on his nipple rings, hit up his campaign manager, Rich Party. Maybe you could connect your chains, and you guys could go do a freak off together. Check out Dr. J Varma. You guys could all hang out. So we were going to talk about the cop being arrested at the strip club, but since Rafael Martinez weighed in, let's get on the rumor that's coming out of the NYPD. Latest NYPD rumor coming out by way of Lieutenant Douchebag. And just so you know, Douchebag, we had the rumor too. We just didn't put it out. We had it a lot earlier than you. but here you go. NYPD news. A newly graduated female NYPD officer who just completed her training in August of 25. So a brand new spanking recruit, fresh out of the police academy. It's going to be October soon. It's not even the end of September. So she graduates in 25. She gets assigned to the 44th precinct. So she goes and reports to the 4-4, Fort Apache, right? But has mysteriously transferred herself to the 5-2 precinct without any proper authorization. Reports indicate she went MIA for orientation and casually informed her rookie colleagues I got transferred to the 5-2. Shockingly, and why they label out the 2 supervisors, it has beyond me. But let's say it, the 2 supervisors in the 4-4 precinct admin office didn't question this at all and accepted her word without verification. Now, I blame every supervisor all the way up to the CO and the XO in this case. So I don't want to just hang it on those 2 idiots. But I would say that whole staff at both the 4-4 and the 5-2 should be disbanded and transferred out immediately. So they didn't question this at all and accepted her word. For 2 months, this girl's been reporting to the 52nd precinct. And once again, no one there raised any concerns. It's baffling who approved this transfer in the first place. This situation raises serious concerns about the level of oversight within the NYPD. You guys need to do better. So I don't see. I disagree here. I don't think that it's serious question about the oversight. I think it's serious questions about the competency of the supervision. Again, we've been saying that this is the NYPD is experiencing a competency crisis, and that's exactly what you're seeing. This is incompetence at every level, from the CEO all the way down. Yeah, no, bro, I transferred myself. Oh, okay. Oh, no, she got transferred. Who? You ever like, I can't even get into how this would have never happened only just a few short years ago. But here you go. Here's Eric Adams' police department. Here's what happens when you have people running the New York City Police Department that couldn't run a hot dog stand. I mean, this is just what it is. This is a competency crisis at its highest levels. So do I think there's a big problem in the NYPD that's going to be corrected immediately? No. I think morale comes up, but I think you need some real hard supervision, and you need some real supervisors holding people accountable at the command level all the way up through these administrative units and everything else. There needs to be some supervision and some competency brought back. Again, I'd rather have an army of sheep, which is led by a lion, than an army of lions that is led by a sheep. Right now, the NYPD is led by a sheep.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, I'm disappointed in this cop, I really am. She should have. Why'd she go to the 5-2? She should have put in for Manhattan, Go to the first, Sky's the limit, ladies. Especially if you're hot on the job. Sky's the limit. Okay. There's some white shirt in the 5-2 who is looking to make her his driver right now. Okay. That's why nobody said anything. That's the underlying. That's the big elephant in the room. Okay. Some horny lieutenant or captain.
Oh, no. It's not a lieutenant.
It's not?
No, it's not a lieutenant. It's a member of the Crumbs crew. 100%. It's like, it's not, they're not tier A1, they're not A1 Crumbs, but they're up there. It's a member of the Crumbs.
It's gotta be tier 2, brother.
And if it is a lieutenant, then it's A1 Crumbs,
Mm-hmm. Well, somebody out there is already got their eyes on her, Now I've heard stories of hot recruits in the academy. We're talking like captains making phone calls to the academy to find out about the hot recruit in it. So okay, she's already sky's the limit for her already. Okay, I'm sure she's already on track, and she's got a nice cushy gig waiting for her at maybe special victims or chief of department's office. Okay, so let that be a lesson to you ladies on the job here. Okay, if you're hot, and by hot I mean cop hot. Okay, which is a different. We're not gonna go into the what that means. Okay, what metrics those are. But if you are, the sky's the limit for you. Okay, so don't settle for the BX now. Okay, let's look at Manhattan. Let's look at 1PP. Let's
Well, when I saw this thing, first of all, shout out to Lieutenant Douchebag. But yes, we had this early on, and we just kept it too close to our chest. We didn't put it out, but I couldn't stop laughing because let's be honest, when it came to young female rookies getting on the job. It was almost like an NYPD fantasy draft. Like, because like if you were hot, like they were getting in the first round, and people, we know commanding officers and the chiefs, they're always looking around. Oh, what girls are in the new class, and if they're hot, they're in the first round. If you're just okay, you might be in the second round, and then if you're looking like you're from the dog pound, you might be in the last round, and you just end up somewhere. Well, I couldn't stop laughing when I saw this because could this happen? Oh, definitely. Definitely. Listen, if you got the right look and you got the right move and you transfer yourself on paper, yeah, I could see that happening. And let's be honest, we used to joke around. Sometimes the police department, a lot of it's based on stigma and just people won't ask certain questions, right? If the first person doesn't ask a question, it's almost like someone, if they have a booger in their nose, if nobody tells them, they'll have it the entire day. Sometimes I used to joke around with my cops and say, you don't have to be a cop. If you just put on a suit and you look squared away, you could walk into any precinct and you think about it. You could walk into any precinct in the entire city and walk around. If you just know a little, a little word salad from the NYPD and you put on a suit, you can play the part, right? There could be 4 guys in a car with a couple of jerseys and you can get out of the car and put somebody up against the wall and they'll probably comply thinking you're cops. So am I surprised by this? No, especially with this administration. The question is, and I agree, who does she know? Because it's definitely someone higher than a lieutenant. I was thinking the same thing. Who does she know in the upper echelon in this administration that she thought, like, God forbid this doesn't work out well? Like, what's going to happen to me? So I'm sure there's a blanket of protection. I would put my money. She's tier 2. I told about it all the time. Tier 3 is your general population. Forget them. This girl ain't that. Tier 1, that's your upper echelon. Tier 2 is your favorites and cronies and nepotism. I'm sure she's in tier 2. I'm sure she knows someone, and she probably thought, fuck it. Worst case, I get caught. I got people to protect me. So, and all, you're right. She better be hot because she might be cop hot. We all know what that is, right? Same thing when I was in the Marines, bro.
You have a heartbeat.
What's that?
You have a heartbeat.
When I was in Iraq, same thing, bro. We used to say you get desert goggles, right? Because there was a couple of girls there, they had faces only a mother could love. But after a couple of months, they were looking pretty good. And listen, that's what happens in the police department also. So, but I couldn't stop laughing. This is funny. Does it show a breakdown in the police department? Yeah. But the same token, this is funny that she thought she had the balls to pull this off. The question is, who does she know? Like, you know what? If this doesn't work out. But I wish I would have thought about it. I wish I would, you know what? And why would you walk into the 5-2? Go to the detective squad. Say, hey, I got transferred here. You got to do a little better. Maybe that's what you meant by doing better, Lieutenant Douchebag. She should have picked a better spot.
Eric, if you just showed up at a different precinct, even as a lieutenant, and said, I got assigned, they'd suspend you on day 1.
Oh, absolutely.
They would suspend you on day 1. Like, and that's the thing here. You know what's going to happen to her? Nothing. She's going to get transferred back. Maybe she gets a slap on the wrist. Nothing. You know why? Because who helped her do it? Who told her to do it? Right? And they can't go after them. We can't expose that. Everything's good. Everything's working now. We have overtime controls now. Everything's good. Jessica Tisch is like Teddy. She's the second coming of Teddy Roosevelt. She didn't go to Montana with the Rough Riders, though, and do all that stuff. But, it is what it is, She was in ITB, and she made a huge mistake by purchasing phones that could no longer be updated. Spent millions of dollars. Yeah, no big deal. Anyway, but like that's the whole thing right here. People are sitting here going, all right, that's ridiculous. That should never happen. She should get in trouble. She's not going to get in trouble. You know why? Because someone told her to do it. She didn't just concoct this scheme on her own. And even if she did, how many layers of supervision did she go through to be able to do that? I mean, you could basically take every sergeant all the way up to the CO and hit them with fail to supervise. Every single one of them. Every single one of them, you failed to supervise. She told you she was transferred here, and you just took her word for it. You didn't check any systems. You didn't care that your roll calls weren't updated. You didn't care that in the ITB system it still showed her in the other. No. You just, she told me she was. We had this kid one time. He was he was definitely like a nepo baby, right? They stick him on the crime team. He's scared to death.
He was a what?
He was a nepo baby. Like,
Okay, yeah.
We just put him on the crime team. It's like, oh, he's a good looking kid.
I know those.
We used to call him Tender Hands, right? And so we were looking for this kid that was wanted for burglaries. So I put out the flyers. I'm like, look, he's 5'11". If you get him, bring him in. I want to question him. Okay? No problem. No problem. Game plan, right? Right? We're good. Later that night, sitting back at the command. It's like 2 a.m. He's like, yeah, I stopped, what's his face? So I'm like, what? Right? He goes, I'm like, where is he? And he goes, I was like, I've been looking for him all night. Where is he? No, he's not 5'11". I'm like, what do you mean he's not? And 5'11", for those of you that don't know, means he has a suspended license. I was saying, bring him in for the suspended license. I want to question him, right? And I want to vouch. I want to see what's in his car, right? I want to vouch for all the stuff in his car because I guarantee, because I had information that he had stuff in his car from one of the burgs he did.
John, you're giving away our policing secrets.
Good. I don't care. Screw them. That's what they got. They should approve my religious exemption.
It's all over that.
It's all over. I bet you guys regret that one, don't you, Johnny? Right? Or Louis. What's Louis' name? Louis Bag of Donuts.
Turgo?
Yeah.
I'll keep roll call. It's all right.
But anyway, so the kid. So I was like, where is he? Like, I don't know. What do you mean you stopped him? Like, where is he? Why is he not in the cell right now? He's like, no, he's not 5'11". I'm like, what are you talking about? He's not 5. He's 5'11". He's like, no, he's not. I was like, I ran him at 5 o'clock in the evening. There's no way that DMV updated their systems. He's 5'11". What are you talking about? What do you mean he's not 5'11"? No, he told me he's not. I took what I had, I threw it at him, and I went upstairs. I got changed and I sweat. And I was furious. I was like, are you kidding me? Are you that stupid? And here we are, their supervisors today.
Yeah. So this is if you really think about this, right? You have to wonder, like, who's really behind all of this, Because I mean, she switched from a 4'4" to the 5'2", so it's in the Bronx. Okay, so you have to assume the borough chief knows it. I mean, yeah, you can't. There's just no way that nobody made a phone call to the borough and was like, what's going on here? So I'm saying right now at the Bronx borough, whoever is Chief Gurley's driver. I'm not saying, okay, I'm not dropping any rumors on here, okay? I'm just saying, if he's the guy who did this, then whoever's his driver better, you're about to get kicked to the curb here. He's about to get that trade for that new AMG.
I told you, NYPD fantasy draft, brother.
Yeah, but it's crazy that this still keeps on happening. Even with Jessica Tisch there, I thought we were over this. I thought, when's the discipline actually coming back to this job? I mean, whoever's looking after this cop, I mean, geez, guy, you couldn't wait until she at least has some time on the job. You can wait till she has like a 6 months. They're already looking to move her. So I give her. In fact, I'll give her like maybe 3-4 months before she gets moved to an even better spot.
Investigative, right? Detective track.
Yeah.
One security hold and one arrest. She's detective material.
That's more than Eric Adams. So she's
not
already
like me and you, Eric. Not like me and you. She's
no. You know what's interesting about this, right? There's no doubt in my mind. I don't need to know any more of the story if it's true or not. We just know it's a rumor at this point to know that there's no doubt about that. Someone in a very high place in the Bronx or in this administration knows about this. Because think about this. Let's pretend we don't know. We don't even know who she is. We never seen her. Let's pretend she is a hot chick. So you tell me the guys at the 4-4 didn't notice the hottest chick, the hottest recruit, the hottest new police candidate, the hottest new police recruit left the precinct, and she's not there anymore. Nobody, the sergeant didn't notice. Like, where is she? The lieutenant, the admin lieutenant. and then she shows up at another precinct and like, who's this? She's not even on the roster. So someone said, don't worry about it. And I'm sure that someone pretty high up. I hope it's worth it.
But I bet the cops all knew. Like they didn't get
they
this girl just transfers herself. You know, this guy's like throwing shit around the locker room. Like, this girl just transfers herself. Nobody cares. I can't get on the squad or whatever it is. Like, I'm getting hit with every detail. This girl doesn't get a detail. She's driving the CO right off the bat. You know that this is the talk, but in both precincts. There
Absolutely.
are people that are through the roof right now, and they're telling their sergeant, "Wait, me? Go get the girl from the 5-2 that you will notify her."
What's this? Shroom? I don't know how you say this. Shroom Charaka says she had to absolutely know. She had to absolutely know someone to be comfortable going to work in the 5-2, and she probably wants to work in the Bronx Zoo since the 5-2 covers that. Yeah, that's a hell of a detail working the zoo. Coffee and donuts, $4.99. Thank you, brother. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Just that's one thing is true. And Marlon, you remember the cops and active retired members know this, but if you're just a police enthusiast, there are no secrets in law enforcement. The cops in the NYPD know everything before the chiefs do. Somehow they do. If you want to know something, talk to the cops. So everyone knew about this. Everyone must have been laughing. Like, look at this shit. Some people laughing. Some people were pissed off too. Because think about the guys that worked hard that put a 57 in. If anybody wants to know what a 57 in, that's an actual transfer. Where guys are begging left and right. And probably girls too, trying to get a transfer. This girl just got one. No internal message. No finest message. Finest message is a transmitting system throughout the police department. No telephone message, just a phone call letting them know you get this person in prison. Just, hey, who's that admin lieutenant? Like the admin lieutenant, listen. And I got to be honest, I think there's more fault on the 4-4 than the 5-2. Because imagine you're the admin lieutenant in 5-2, and this girl comes in, and you might be thinking, I don't know, maybe the chief transferred her, right? Should I question this? Okay. Now, so the question is, who did she tell the admin lieutenant at the 5-2 who transferred her? I'm sure that started with Chief something. Chief something authorized. And listen, to his credit, or her, whoever the admin lieutenant is, how are you going to question that? Hey, Chief so-and-so transferred you? Okay. What are you going to do? John, honestly, what are you going to do? You're the admin lieutenant.
I'm calling personnel. I'm going to be like, why is this? Why don't I have no transfer order? I'm 100% like, no, I think they both suck. They're terrible. They're honestly, I don't care. I know a bunch of people that both play. I don't care. Like, it's horrible. It's honestly, that's inexcusable. You get this girl. It says, I got transferred here. Okay, where's your orders? Why are you in the computer? First thing I'm doing is picking up the phone to personnel. What's this girl here? Like, what? When did she get transferred here? You're gonna know right off the bat. She didn't get transferred there. Oh, what about the CO? Who's that girl? Why is she here? What about the other CO? Where'd that girl go? Where is she?
That's why this is hilarious.
But that's why what Marlon's saying is 100% accurate. It's not who we should be looking at. Look up. Look up. Look up. But they ain't going to do that. They're going to keep you. No. Look down at this girl. Look at the admin lieutenant. Look at the sergeants. No. Show me the COs.
Exactly.
I want to see the commanding officers.
Can you blame
you guys knew exactly what was going on. You made a little deal. We know what happened. Everybody knows what happened.
That's what I'm saying, John. Marlon, can you blame her? Like, she got an opportunity. Like, okay, they said I could do it. What are you gonna say? No, I gotta stay here. Okay.
What are her days off? You thinking? How many overtime details that she had?
I'm thinking she got a Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Saturday, Sunday.
No
transit post. Yeah. No Juve. No, none of that stuff. No. You get the good overtime, baby. You get to put up with the anti-crime overtime. You just drive the CO or the XO, or you sit in my office. All right, don't worry about these other guys. You see this?
She's getting great.
Give her 4 months, Eric. Give her 4 months. And look, I'm gonna say
you guys are just jealous. So that's it.
I wish I could just walk into a precinct like, you know what? Today I feel like working in, I don't know. Today I'm gonna work in the 9th precinct. Just gonna walk in like, hey, how you doing? Like, what?
I saw Serpico one time here. I wanted to give it a shot. I thought it was cool. I saw it on TV.
Yeah.
Mikey G.
Yeah,
Metal
yeah.
Detective says this has been happening for years. Yeah, you know what? You're right, brother. Probably has, but it's just hilarious. It is that stuff like this goes on in 2025. But you know what, John and Marlon? I know Jessica Tish is listening, probably because they came out with a digital. You know, it's great. If you have a system in place and it's not working, just come out with a new program. We'll come out with this digital overtime program to manage overtime when it fails. So now maybe they'll come out with a digital transfer system. So now if you get transferred, you'll get a digital transfer system and everybody will know.
It's a miracle. Jessica Tish, we have to. Cuomo, are you keeping Jessica Tish? She created the digital transfer system. It's amazing.
Yeah, no problem. It gives you a picture. Oh, you're here.
Sick. That is funny stuff right there. That's what it is. That's what it is. So then another thing, and this thing, I kind of feel bad for this kid. Comes out of the New York Post. NYPD detective with a history of misconduct busted for flashing firearm at a Long Island stripper. Have you ever been shot? So, I mean, the details around it, dudes are probably out after work at a strip club in Long Island. Never a good recipe. One, anything with alcohol in your firearm, you're an idiot, right? Just don't do it. Hanging out at a strip club, you got problems, you know? You're putting yourself in a big problem, especially with the gun, dude. Like, you're going to a strip club, like, and girls are going to grind up on you and feel the gun. Like, what are you doing? You know, so it sounds more like he was arrested and charged with menacing because allegedly he lifted his shirt up and said, "Oh, have you ever been shot?" Now, kid's got 15 years on the job. He's in the warrant section. So he's had a good career, right? Hasn't had a problem. Does he have an alcohol problem? Don't know. Did he make a mistake that night? Don't know. That's what it sounds like. To me, when I hear this, I hear he's flirting with a stripper. He's trying to show off that he's a cop, and bam, it doesn't go over well. Nobody likes cops, and she goes out, this asshole did this, and she overreacts to the whole situation, and then he ends up in handcuffs and on the front cover of the New York Post. That's what it sounds like to me. It doesn't sound like a menacing to me. It sounds like a dumb thing that happened with a really stupid thing because you were trying to get laid. That's what it sounds like to me. It just sounds dumb. Is punishment in order? 100%. But I don't think he criminally did anything wrong whatsoever.
Yeah, you know, this is why we need more female commanding officers on the job, you know? So we can get young male cops could have the same opportunities as the hot female rookies. Okay. We need more equality and equity on this job. Okay. But so this guy's from Brooklyn North, and I have to wonder if he's connected somewhere on the job. You know, now Warrants used to be one of those gigs where you really needed like a crane to get into. I don't know how it is now, but if it's like the old Warrants where you needed a crane, then he's probably connected to somebody. And I always feel that guys who are really connected to the job, to like, you know, they have these cranes, they don't they get a little bit lax, and they just don't think things through. They tend to think things through. Whereas guys who, you know, you don't know anybody up there, you if you go to a strip club, you're more cognizant of the fact that, you know, especially if you have a firearm on you, that, you know, you're in a situation that could go sideways, you know, and could lead to bigger problems to you, you know. But whereas a guy who's connected to the top and has a crane there, he's a little more comfortable, you know, because he feels that he's protected. He's part of that Nepo class, you know. So when I first saw the story, I had to wonder, like, you know, what would make you think that you know, flashing your firearm at this stripper isn't going to get you in trouble? Hell, you're in a strip club, guy. You know, first of all, a lot of these women there are broken. Okay, all right, And if you're not smart enough to realize this, that these women are broken, and you're a celebrity, like John always says, you're a celebrity without the money. Okay. And since you work for the city, a lot of people know that they can get that suing the city is a very easy road to getting money, getting money. So if the fact that he's not cognizant of that is like I just don't understand myself.
I just gotta say, this is plain stupid. Let's be honest. I mean, a lot has changed on the job, right? You're just dumb. I don't know if this story is true or not, but if this story is true, brother, you might go to a place that's BYOB, bring your own beer, but don't BYOG and bring your own Glock. Leave your gun at home. If you're going out to a strip club in your first of all, I'm not saying I'm right. I was wrong. I didn't carry my gun. I barely carried my gun. I should have. Today you should carry a gun, but you should carry a gun, right? Have it. If you think, hopefully you don't need it. But if you go to certain places, if you're going out to strip club, you're going out to a bar, restaurant, you don't need your gun. If you're out there with a couple of guys, why do you need your gun anyway? That's just plain stupid. But to me, and this is somebody with 15 years on the job, and I'm surprised because, man, how things changed. When we went out, we never told anybody we were cops. Never. I used to tell people as a fireman or a plumber, things I knew about that I knew I could talk about. Right? I'm very good at doing plumbing. So I would tell people I'm a plumber because I can have those conversations. I wouldn't tell them I'm a cop. That was something that we would do back then. And if you did have a gun on you, why would you show anybody? Why would you even let them know? Because you're opening that gateway. You can't trust, not even just a stripper, you can't trust anybody. And it's not just a woman. You can't trust anybody because you're a meal ticket and you have to know these things. And these are the things were preached to us when we first got on the job. That's why I'm surprised. We never told people we were cops. We never let them know where we work, what we do. We didn't show them guns. So to me, honestly, this is just plain stupid. It's just dumb if it's true. If it's true. And these cases are really tough to prove or disprove, which is why they're a gateway for potential lawsuits. Why put yourself in that position? I just think it's stupid. Why the hell are you bringing a gun to a strip club? That is stupid. And if it's a ghetto strip club like that you really need a gun, why are you going there? Why are you going there? I mean, this isn't Sin City. Where are you going? Where you going, man?
Well, if America, all strip clubs up here are ghetto, including like when I was in 7-7, the whole special teams went to that one in what's that one by Williamsburg over there? I forget the name of it. Riviera.
Marlon's a strip club snob. Now you hear this? I'm a coffee snob.
I'm just saying. Every time I went to one here, it's like I'm like I got to get the hell out of here before somebody gets shot. They're all like seedy. Okay. The only time I ever went to one where it actually seemed like, oh, I'm not gonna get shot today here, is down south and by like Myrtle Beach, and it was like more like a club, than a strip club. But my point is that you're crazy for going to any of these strip clubs up in New York because they're all seedy to me. Okay, and also that to Eric's point, he's arrogant. We don't know the full story here, but I'm gonna say that maybe not necessarily arrogant, but a little cocky is what I think. Okay, because certainly like somebody who isn't as cocky would never think that showing that anything good could come from telling her that, hey, I'm a cop and just look at my firearm, So just Eric's point.
I just think it's it's just honestly it's plain stupid. Like most of the strip clubs, I get it fun. Like when you go to Sue's Rendezvous in Mount Vernon, like where you going? Like these are places that have potential problems, and people want to know what we mean by ghetto. You know what I'm talking about by ghetto? People that have criminal past that are going there, they have cash from selling drugs, things like that hang out at strip clubs. Strip club is a place for cash. Not all people, but a lot of them do have a stigma and have a lot of people that are like that. It's just not a place that cops should go to, honestly. If you're insinuating ghetto is black or white, it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the type of people, what they're doing. And we know it's a place for cash.
No, it's gross, bro. Honestly, I mean, I never went to strip clubs. I could probably count the time on my hands in my life that I've been in there. I think it's skelly. I mean, you want to get laid, go to a bar. I mean, it's not that hard. Go to a bar, hang out, play last man standing. There'll be girls in there. They're starved for men. They're starved for attention. Just stay at the bar. They're starved for attention. Learn how to talk to people. Oh, hey, excuse me. Oh, sorry. Oh, is this yours? Oh, like,
Yeah.
oh, like learn how to talk to people. Get out there. Get off of your little apps and go out there. You'll get laid. Believe me. I know some guys that are gruesome, man. Gruesome. And they can't talk. They're ugly as hell. They can't dress, and they get girls. They got no problem. Because they're confident. So girls don't care. Girls are into ugly guys. I got married. You could get married.
Hey, John, those guys you have
You could get ass.
those guys happen to wear white shirts and are Chiefs.
Those guys.
Patrick Donovan says I should have told people I was an RV salesman.
That's it. I mean, tell him anything. Honestly, that's what I used to do. I would tell him anything. My friend used to always say he's a dog walker to the stars, and that was hysterical because then everybody would. Then it was like the conversation. Girls are laughing, everybody's fun. Laughing. I started stealing that from him, or I would do him a union delegate, but never say where it was, or I was an import export and never get into it. And it's just one question after the other, and then that next thing you know, you're joking, you're laughing, you're talking about other things. I think if you're gonna have alcohol, don't have you going. It's a recipe for disaster.
I didn't know we're turning this into a pickup line. So how to pick women up at the Finest Unfiltered.
Yeah. You know what? I have better advice, guys. Listen, don't do any of that. Okay, just take the test and become a chief or become a captain, and then you could go to the academy. Okay, and get your first pick at the hot rookies, and then you could transfer them and you drive it.
But Marlon, if they come out with a new digital transfer system, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. That's great.
We've been going a while. What do you guys want to do? Do you want to get on the ICE agent, or
let's talk about the ICE agent before we get out of here?
All right. Any other advice for these rookies that are out there making fools of themselves?
Man, you know what? Just don't embarrass yourself. Come on. We're laughing. Some of this stuff is funny, but what's right and wrong. At the same time, don't be afraid to ask questions. Jeez, I mean, you're an admiral lieutenant. I get it. It's a tough spot. Somebody tells you, hey, some chief transfer me. Okay, no problem. But make some phone calls. Protect yourself. It's a crazy time, brother. It's a crazy time. But at least we had a good laugh at it. But if you're going out, seriously, I'll never tell somebody where to go, what not to go. But don't go to some place that that's probably going to put you in a vulnerable position, especially when you have your gun. You just have too much to lose. I'm not saying as a cop that you have to live a life restricted where you can't enjoy yourself, but you got to be a little smarter and don't put yourself in situations that that have potential problems. If there's a place that that often they have fights there and there's issues there, that's not a place you want to go to, not as a cop, especially with a gun. And don't let anybody know what you do. I mean, a majority of people guess it, especially if you're going out with a bunch of cops, and people will know like those are cops, but at least you're in a group and you can protect each other. But if you have a gun and I don't even know why you would do that anyway. Is that impressive to flash a gun to a stripper? Flash cash. Why are you flashing a gun? Show them money. I don't get it.
Don't flash anything. Just do biceps and wear small shirts, and you'll be all right.
Well, John, you don't even wear shirts.
or khaki pants,
Okay.
You biceps twice a week. Don't do legs, so your arms look bigger, and that's it.
Girls for the girls. That's what they call it, right?
You got to do biceps on Monday and then on Friday, right before you go out. No.
Rob says strippers love the Glock. Okay. Oh,
but
man.
I'm telling you, you gotta be. You don't know, man. I met this girl in the city one night. Whatever. I don't even hook up with her that night. She's like, "Oh, let's hang out." I take her out another night. So then it's like a normal setting. We're not out, and I'm like, then I tell her I'm a cop and all this shit. We go back to my apartment, and she's like, "Would you put your thing in my mouth?" And I'm like, I was like, "Listen, you gotta go home," because I was like. That's it. It's over. It went from, all right, I'm about to get laid to, I was like, this ain't happening. I'm like, this girl's a psycho. I don't know what's coming out of this. I don't know if this whole shit was a setup. I got her out. I was like, no, we're done. We're done.
You should have had it or a NYPD application.
She probably
You're
is on the
going-
job now. She's probably driving somebody now.
She's probably the 5'2".
Unvaccinated.
She's got 0 CCOBs.
She was cop hot too.
All right, let's talk about this ICE agent. Oh man, what do you got?
I was a virgin before I got married. Sorry. Anyway.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah. So all right, here we go. So, so this ICE agent, this video comes out, and do I think this is the end of the world here watching this video? No, I absolutely don't think it's the end of the world, but I think watching it, I think this dude got hooked. I'm looking at this from a law enforcement perspective. I'm looking at this from a supervisory perspective, as well as I'm looking at this as a member of the public's perspective. So this incident takes place in an immigration court. Woman's there with her children. Her husband's about to be deported. Now, I support deportation, but I think that if we're going to deport one person in the family, we should deport all the people in the family, especially if it's the male, if it's their protector. I don't hate people that came to this country illegally. I don't. They were lied to. People like Joe Biden opened the borders and lied to them. People like Eric Adams welcomed them and told them that the streets were paved with gold and gave them $500 a week debit cards and put them up in 4-star hotels and told them that they were going to get jobs and then abandoned them. They were completely lied to and brought here in order to uproot and change the culture of this country, as well as to try to sway elections, make them voters and sway elections. That's why they're here. I don't hate these people. These people came here for a better life, just like my grandparents did when they came from Italy. They're looking for a better life for their children. So this woman's completely emotional. She is crying hysterically to this ICE agent. She kind of corners him. I don't believe by watching this assessment that she's a threat to this man whatsoever. She places her hand on his ribs. You have these Midwest social media conservative influencers paid and bought and paid for, telling you that she assaulted this ICE agent. She did not assault this ICE agent. I'm just going to say that. In my opinion, she clearly does not assault the ICE agent. He gets crazy. I understand the circumstances he's dealing in. I know that these guys are doing this every day. They're in these tense situations every day. And I know what it's like to lose my temper or make a bad decision. So do I think that this guy's a horrible person and he deserved to be fired? I don't. But however, the reports come out that he was immediately fired, relieved of duty. I don't believe that that was accurate. But I do believe he needs reinstruction. And I do believe that he did act improperly. And so what happens is supposedly that he's put back to full duty and he's out again doing this. And not only is he back doing his job, but all of these Midwestern conservative social media influencers are cheering him on like he's a hero and pretending this is what law enforcement should be doing. And I think it's honestly disgusting for men to cheer this behavior on. It's my opinion. It's unpopular. I don't know how you guys feel about it. We didn't talk about it prior, but that's just how I see it. Let's play the video, and then you guys get your thoughts.
Okay. No me toques, señora. Adiós, adiós. 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 Oh, come on, man. Come on. I'm gonna be real with you.
What do you guys think about that?
I think that's terrible. I think that's a terrible look for them. And I've said before, like, I question the wisdom of sending out like ICE to be so aggressive when it comes to illegals who haven't committed any crimes. I know they're illegal, and I'm not justifying. I'm not okay with that at all. But like John says, if I was in my home country and I didn't have parents who brought me into this country, and I'm trying to get into this country, I'm coming illegally. I'm telling you, I would do it too. I would hop the fence. Why wouldn't you? Everybody wants a better life for themselves, and unfortunately, a lot of these countries, they're third world countries, and they're corrupt, and it's hard for people to earn a living and to take care of their families and to have a good life. So they're all coming to America. They want to come to America. So I would too. You can't really blame them for coming here. But with that said, I shouldn't be aggressively going after people like this. I believe they should be aggressively going after targeting the perps and the criminals, and the legal system should find ways of getting the other illegals here in a way that doesn't involve overly aggressive tactics that just come off looking bad on camera. And in addition to that, all it does is it furthers divisiveness and it gives red meat to all those leftists who are protesting ICE right now and ready to start riots because of ICE. So I think this is a bad look, and I think there's a little bit of frustration on that agent's part, but probably because they didn't have to do this before, that they're being now asked to be so aggressive in apprehending illegals. And I think I caution them too, because as this goes on, they might be, they're going to be in situations where that frustration is going to come out even more. And we don't even know how long these guys are, how many hours they're putting in, and whether they're away from their families, how much free time they now have, So it's frustration that's building, and it's creating more divisiveness, and it's just a terrible look.
First of all, I think this is absolutely disgusting. I don't like watching that. Now, someone that was involved in numerous arrest situations, volatile situations, I have deployed strikes. I've used force numerous times when it was necessary with the most violent perpetrators. But I think what this paints the picture to me that the ICE agents are in over their heads at this point. And Marlon, you alluded to it. They're not used to this volume of dealing with people on this level. The volume has really been amped up, and they're dealing with people that are super stressed and super frustrated because they see thousands of others get into this country and have no issues, and while some people are facing it. So the dynamics are very interesting. And I think the ICE agents need far more training. They're unprepared for what's going on right now. Because I watched that video, and I watched it several times, and he missed the verbal cues and the nonverbal cues of that woman. And those verbal cues were cries for help. You can tell the difference when someone's crying for help or if they're offensive or defensive. And those were cries for help. Maybe it was a little exaggeratory, but they were cries for help. And also, if you watch her hands, right? Her hands were like this, almost like when women paint their nails and they show their nails. Her hands were not in an offensive or defensive posture. Her hands were like this, where she was showing her nails, and her hands were faced to her, which is a cry for help. So if anybody takes, if you study body language, her body language was a position of crying for help. It was not a position of posturing for offensive or defensive positions. So he missed those verbal cues. Verbal cues. Try saying that 10 times. He also missed those nonverbal cues, verbal cues of her body language. And I think that the amount of force he used was absolutely ridiculous in that position. She's stressed. I think he could have put his arm around her and said, I get it. I'm sorry. This is a job I have to do, and understand her frustration. And I think he could have brought those cries to a conversation. I could see it based on her body position, the way she was screaming, the way she was crying. She was crying for help. She was pleading for help. She was not in an offensive posture. She was not in a defensive posture. I didn't see her as a threat at all. And the only issue was him. He let his frustrations get to him. Now, do I think he should be terminated for it? No. I think it's absolutely ridiculous and disgusting. But this should be now for the leadership to say, well, we need more training. We need more training that we have the voluminous that we have. And so these police officers or ICE agents, law enforcement agents, whatever you want to call them, they are law enforcement, can handle these situations. And that's why the NYPD has always been revered. And it upsets me right now that the NYPD is no longer the GOAT of policing, because there's no one better at dealing with people than the NYPD, because you deal with such a volume. You understand body language. You understand when someone is in an offensive posture, someone's in a defensive posture, someone's crying for help. I mean, if you watch that video again, just look at her hands. Her palms are facing her. Her nails are out. That's not an offensive position. She's crying for help. Her hands will keep going down because she's just asking for help. Now, am I saying it's right? Immigration, coming to this country illegally? No. But it's not a violent crime either. It's a way we can handle ourselves. There's a way you can handle yourselves with people. Now, if her husband committed a violent act, either way, it's not her committing that act. And I think that was a complete epic fail. It was disgusting.
No, yeah, I agree. And like, so here's the thing from like, I think that he overreacted and people like, oh, he assaulted her. Here's the thing. You really get in a gray area when you talk about people that she didn't assault him, but she did put her hands on him. And you're really getting in a gray area if you're saying that a cop can't defend himself from someone putting their hands on them. And so I think he went overboard. Well, I think that if it was a reason for force to be used, you used a minimal amount of necessary force. It's not shoving and pushing a grieving wife. Her husband's being stripped from her, right? She's on New York City. Now she's there with her kids. Her kids are with her. Her kids are with her. The husband's being taken away. Whatever he did, he did. I mean, she's a wife and a mother. She's being left on New York City streets to fend for her and her children. We don't know their financial situation. We don't know the safety situation. We don't know where they're living. I'm sure she is petrified, right? So, but when I look at like her actions, like exactly what Eric's saying, I don't see that she's that aggressive. But now if the law enforcement officer, and for you Midwest conservative influences who are paid, and you're literally agitating civil war in this country, because that's what they're doing. That's exactly what they're doing. They're trying to inflame the left, and people are biting. They're trying to inflame the left and inflame the right at the same time, and people are biting in it. I hear grown men. I put this post out, and I said that it was basically, this is not how you would treat your wife. This is not how you would treat your mother. This is not how you would treat your sister. And if they were, you'd be singing a damn different tune. And the responses I got, I was disgusted by. I'm like, you guys are men? And you think that was right? You think that was right? And so like it goes to a couple of points you have to think about. This is what you're asking for when you're asking for federal authorities to come and police the streets of New York City, or to police the streets of Chicago, or to police the streets of LA. They can't do it. It's a hard job. You know, in law enforcement, I always say there's not a lot of people that are good at law enforcement, but in any scenario that you're in today, when you go into a supermarket today, you're out on New York City streets, or you're anywhere, you walk into a restaurant, you go to a coffee shop, there's about 1 million data points when you walk in that you could look. Oh, this guy's sitting in the corner there. This woman is at the counter. This guy looks a little weird over here. This girl just went in the bathroom. There's all these data points floating around. And most people really only have the ability to grab one or two of them. Police officers are expected to see all of it. And not a lot of people can. And even the really, really, really good police officers can't see every data point. But they see a lot more than the average Joe Schmo, right? They read those data points. They read situations. They read what's happening. They understand what's happening. And because they're able to do that, they're able to properly assess these situations. All right, wife's here. We just took her husband. Her kids are here. She's crying. She's inflamed. She's this. You going to give that person more leeway to get into your space and to possibly touch you. She's hysterical, right? So, but the people that are saying she assaulted him, then I'm saying, well, then he's a terrible officer. Because, Eric, if he had instructed her to leave and she didn't leave, and she wouldn't leave, what would you do then? You would instruct her, or Marlon, you would instruct her, listen, ma'am, I feel bad for you, but if you don't leave, I'm going to have to arrest you. right? You're going to give her a warning. You're going to give her a verbal cue. I'm never getting there with her. I'm not even, because I'm not arresting a mother with her children. So that those words are never coming out of my mouth that she's going to get arrested. I'm going to say, man, there's nothing I could do. I understand. There's nothing I could do. I don't know what you want me to do. There's nothing I could do for you. You know, do you want to talk? Let me talk to you outside. What can we talk about? And I'm going to try to calm her down. But if it's at the point that she can't be calmed down or she's cornering you and she is hysterical, one, I'd ask for help. You saw there was security in the building. But if you thought it was there, then now we have levels to things, right? Ma'am, you're going to get arrested. I'm asking you to leave. Please leave. Please leave. I don't want to arrest you in front of your kids. We're going to arrest you in front of your kids. I'm going to get a translator there to say, hey, we're going to arrest you in front of your kids. You have to leave. And then at that point, if she still refuses to leave, I'm still not throwing her on the ground. I'm still not throwing her on the ground. I'm going to now grab her wrists and I'm going to turn her arm and I'm going to use control and I'm going to get her arms behind her back and I'm going to handcuff her. If she's violently resisting, we go to the ground. But there's a level of things. He went full on like that. It was horrible. It was wrong. Any man cheering that on, shame on you. Any law enforcement officer cheering that on, shame on you. You're terrible at your job. And to me, I think you have a thing for exercising power over women, because I did not see that as a good look. If that guy worked for me, I would chew his ass out. That was absolutely disgusting.
Well, I can tell you right now, that's a great point. So should people necessarily touch you when you're a cop? No, you have to protect your personal space. However, if you're not comfortable with people touching you, you've never worked in Manhattan. And I can tell you, I've worked in Manhattan, and there are situations you're like everybody else. You want to get a cup of coffee, or you're in a situation and people touch you all day. Any cop here, active or retired, you worked in Manhattan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. People rush up, they brush up against you. Excuse me, sir. They reach over right across your chest to grab a straw. You are in Manhattan. There's a different thing. In the Bronx, I worked in the Bronx and I worked in Manhattan. In the Bronx, some people view you as like, wow, you're a big deal. That guy's got a good job. Not all people in the Bronx, but in Manhattan, to some of these people that are elites out there, you're a peasant. And they just look at you like you're nothing, and they brush up against you. Excuse me, sir. They, a lot of rich people come over and just touch you. Can I see that, sir? And just like put their fingers on you, and unfortunately, you have to deal with it, and you have to know body language. And this is something you develop. I always talk about the baseline of a police officer. You have to have those observation skills to determine someone's non-verbal cues of what is something that could harm you, or these are just body movements that you have to deal with that are not going to harm you. And that's why I said her body language was not, she wasn't posturing offensively or defensively. That was a cry for help. Anybody gets a chance, you watch that video again, just watch her hands, you could see it. And some people are saying she was put on an act. Maybe she was. Maybe she was put on a show. But the way I read the body language, I don't think so. I've studied some of this stuff. I read some books on it. I'm looking at it. I don't think that she faked it. I think his demeanor was terrible. I think his reaction was way over the top. I mean, she was a small stature. I'm not saying, listen, if she got violent, sometimes you have to take women to the ground. Yes, but she wasn't violent. She wasn't a threat to him. That could have been a conversation. He could have said no problem. And maybe get her a glass of water. I don't know. Just have a conversation. Just be a real person. I mean, but to me, tackling her, that was terrible. He was in his own head. Maybe he's being overworked. Maybe he's lacked the training. Maybe he's dealing with that all day, but he let himself go. And that, to me, that's a training issue.
And Marlon, just before you go, there's a lot of people in the chat saying she was put on a show and we fell for it. No. If she was put on a show, he fell for it. Because how many people have put on shows in front of all of us and we still didn't tackle them on the ground? We were able to assess the situation properly. 100%. And I'm not getting hooked. You're not going to get me on camera doing that anyway. First of all, you're not pissing me off enough to do that anyway. And honestly, I don't think that she's there with her kids putting on an act. The kids are hysterical crying too. Right? And who goes over to protect the mother? The little daughter. She's like 10. So if she's put on a show, whatever, he still got hooked. He still sucks. He still has no business in the streets.
John, that's bullshit. That wasn't an act. You can tell that was authentic. That was legit. She was going through an episode. I mean, come on, listen. You know, it's easy for people to say. Like, I've traveled around the entire world, and could you imagine being in another country and your husband or wife's being deported? You're with your kids now. You're scared shit. I mean, come on. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's right to be illegal, to cross this country illegally. I'm not saying that's right. But what I'm saying is you have to understand her position, right? And John and Marlon, I agree with you. If my family says I'm going to Asia tomorrow, maybe I'm going with them. You're right. Even though it's illegal, because you want to be with your family. So that's a tough situation. I was in other countries, and I can imagine if they were treating me like that, how I would feel. You're in a foreign land, a place that's unfamiliar. Maybe her English is not that good. I don't know. But the bottom line is she's in a very vulnerable position. There's different ways to skin a cat. Have I tackled people before? Hell yeah. Have I deployed strikes? Hell yeah. But the people that were trying to attack me, she was not a threat. And it has nothing to do with the fact that he's a man or she's a woman. It's body language. It's the behavior. It wasn't necessary. And that's the skills you learn as a police officer. And that's what's honorable, is when you could be called a cop. And a cop sees different behaviors and indicates, understands. I'm sure, John Marlon, you've been in situations where you thought someone was going to be a threat and they turned out to be meek, or someone you thought was meek and turned out to be a threat. And these are cues that you watch and you make those observations, not just verbal, but nonverbal. And he lacked the ability and he missed those cues.
So I just have to shout out Louis 103. I've been called a lot of things these last 3 years. Never a self-righteous religious zealot. That is awesome. Shout out to you, Louis. That's the person. Shout out.
That is great. Now you're gonna be an anti-Semite too, John.
Yeah, everything. I've been called out. That was the first time I ever been called out. I've been called everything. So that I was like, wow, self-righteous.
Am I right though, Mom? Don't you read the cues? Like, you know.
Yeah. You know, I think it's unfortunate that these illegals are like pawns. You know, they were pawns of the left. Yeah. And now in a lot of ways they're pawns on the right, and they're being used to kind of rile up both sides of the aisle on especially on social media, when you get the influencers jumping in and saying that this is okay. But something to think about also, we don't know whether she was legal and the husband was illegal, or they were both illegal. But to what John said earlier, they should remove the entire family, because the problem is you have now a woman with kids and she's left there without her husband, and and that becomes, this is not just her problem now, it's all of our problems, because you know what's going to end up happening? We're going to be paying for her, okay, and paying for her kids. And when those kids we don't know how much longer she's going to be in this country, but I'm telling you, those kids now don't have a father in their life, okay? And what have we talked about many times there is that a lot of these kids in these neighborhoods become, the father isn't there, and they, these kids are going to be susceptible to the environment that's around them now, and it's probably going to be like a low-income environment, So I don't think this benefits anybody, and I think these illegals are pawns, and I don't like the fact that tensions are being riled up on both sides, because I think in such an environment where you have riots every day, you have these incidents of lone wolf shooters. And by the way, over the weekend there were 2 incidents. There were one in Michigan and one in North Carolina, Southport, North Carolina. And you have all this tension building up. What's it going to lead to? It's going to lead to an expansion of the surveillance state, and we losing even more of our rights. So I don't think this benefits anybody, and it most certainly makes the job of ICE agents now even harder, because now you're getting even more crazies protesting you as you're trying to do your job. So I don't think, again, this isn't a good look, and it's not benefiting anybody.
Well, I think we hammer this home. It's 2 hours and 45 minutes into it. The Finest Unfiltered Monday morning. I think we cracked a lot of good issues here. It's kind of funny. I'm getting I'm getting information. Supposedly, supposedly the rumor of the girl that was transferred from the 4-4 to 5-2. Supposedly, she got her gun and shield taken away. That's what I'm hearing. A rumor, and so supposedly the CO of the 5-2 went to the 4-4 to sort this thing out. So I don't know. All rumors. I guess we'll find out. See if anybody cracks the case on this one. How this happened, and if it did happen, what did they do to rectify it? And if this did happen, will Jessica Tisch come out with a new transfer digitalized program for a pilot program, maybe in a couple of precincts, the ones that predominantly have these type of issues? Maybe with all the hot girls, they'll fix this issue. So I don't know. It's kind of funny, but
and we want to see all the people that got hit for failed to supervise for allowing this. If it wasn't a scheme concocted at the top, we want to see who got hit for failed to supervise, because
absolutely.
It's a clear failure of supervision.
You know what's sad about that? I'm glad you brought that up, John, because I hope that doesn't happen, but it's unfortunate. I'm sure there's supervisors that are completely unaware of this, that may not have been working, but they'll get failed to supervise also, just to deflect from where this really happened from. That's what the problem is. It's sad, but it's true, right? So 2 hours and 45 minutes into it, showed some real stamina. Thank you, everyone, for engaging. So,
Don, you said you didn't have stamina today, bro.
You got stamina, dude. Marlon, what do you got, bro? Let's close this thing out. Let's get going.
Yeah, guys, thanks for joining us today. I thought we had a hilarious episode, and just on that rookie, I want to know if that rookie worked on the job before, because I mentioned before about cadets. A lot of cadets tend to do stuff like this, So I'm just wondering if she worked on the job before, and whoever her crane is, I wonder if that's where the connection is, because I don't think any rookie, regardless of how hot they are, is going to think of doing this on their own. If there isn't, without somebody having spoken to their ear and basically giving them the okay, if just tacitly. But you guys out there, have a great day, and if you're on patrol, stay safe and alert.
Yeah, all right. I'm gonna go be a religious zealot the rest of the day and do what religious zealots do. So I'm gonna be doing that. Self-righteous religious zealot, excuse me. And and that's it. Yeah. Check out the whole debate with the ICE agents wearing masks too. Another thing I got destroyed over the weekend about. I don't believe that their job is more dangerous than a police officer's job, and I don't want unidentified masked men running around doing law enforcement throughout this country and potentially policing the streets of New York. So I said that you either support ICE agents wearing masks, which means you support all law enforcement being unidentified wearing masks, or you don't. And I am on the side is I don't, because whether you feel safe and comforted that Donald Trump or Benjamin Netanyahu is your president, whatever you want to say, you're on the right side of things. Or in 3 years from now, you could potentially have a Gavin Newsom or an AOC as your president. And are you going to feel comfortable with masked men who are overwhelmingly compliant and unidentified, who make a lot of bad mistakes, being masked and unidentified? I'm not. So I will continue to get beat up over that assessment. Maybe we could talk more about that on Friday. But I that's just a couple of thoughts to ponder, because a lot of people like, oh, that you're so anti-ICE, and it's like, no, I'm the furthest thing. I support them. I support their mission. I believe that we should enforce immigration in this country. I believe that people that are here illegally should be identified and removed from this country. But there are ways to treat people and police humanely. NYPD is a great example of how to do that. They're a great example how to police people, and they're a great example of policing with empathy. Not everybody, but a lot of people in the NYPD. And the things that we talked about here, I think that our assessment is totally accurate from a supervisory standpoint. I think that the supervisors in ICE agree what the hell we're saying as well. Don't make the guy a hero. He got hooked, and we shouldn't be seeing things like that in this country. So, Eric, you want to close this out?
Yeah, 100%, brother. Monday morning, Finest Unfiltered. Don't forget, tomorrow, you got your Sal Greco show, 13:05. And then, of course, 10-4 Tavern Tuesday night. And then Wednesday, we'll be back in the morning. and your Wednesday night executive perspective. Pack week. Don't forget also, when you get a chance, also take a look at thefinestunfiltered.com. Go over to our website, tune in and turn in, and you can navigate and find yourself. Look at the newsletter, look at news articles written by myself, John, Rob. The entire team's going to write some articles. If you want to write an article, let us know. Send it to us. We'll vet it. If you also, on the articles, there's an option. You can put some comments. Send us information. If there's something you want us to talk about or write about, put it on there as well. It's a lot of information that we can pass and cross-pollinate, so keep looking forward. We are a pioneer in police media. Stay with us. The Finest Unfiltered, everybody. Take care.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?